for your DRP or defense research proposal session. May I know how many of you here have yet to go for your DRP? Is it possible to raise your hand here? I'm not sure. Any of you here? Okay, Marklin, thank you very much. Others? Semua malu-malu kena angkat tangan. I do see my students here, and my students pun belum lagi defend Okay. So I assume that many of you have yet to defend. Azwati, you dah kan? Dah defend kan? Oh, Hati. You dah defend ke, Hati? Okay. Quite a lot of participants here. So I hope the number are increasing. Actually, this is some sort of a every semester session whereby I'm delivering you talk on developing framework and also questionnaire. So I hope all of you, you can make use of this session in order for you to, make sure that what you are doing is right. Because framework is the heart of your research, everyone. Framework is the heart of your research. Because if something wrong in your framework and you manage to pass your defense, without the panels realizing it, you cannot, when you go for your Viva, you will only have one option, two options, whether you're going to have major correction or you're going to have failure. I mean, like totally, you can't really pursue any longer. Okay, I think you can raise down your hand. Okay. Okay, so framework is very important. So that's why for today, I'm going to share with you how are you going to make sure that you can develop an effective framework which has a strong underpinning theory in which your variables, you assign meaning to your variables. And the items that you use in your questionnaire should reflect the variables that you are highlighting or you are proposing in your research framework. Okay, something yang kita boleh design sekali because as a PhD student, fundamental research, you need to create groundbreaking stuff. So I'm sure that every one of you are all being stressed out because, I need to create something new. So the problem that many students underwent in today tend to reinvent the wheel. Okay, reinvent the wheel means that is already there. A framework is already there explaining the research problem that you are trying to propose. But somehow you are actually, you're actually trying to propose things that have been proposed earlier. Okay, because you think that, PhD is about developing something new. So you develop your own variables, your own constructs, your own items questionnaire, you develop yourself. So that is not totally right. Okay, that is not totally right. All right. So, so that's the importance, the objective of this program, to give exposure to you. What are the meticulous things that you need to do in order for you to make sure your framework, can get passed through the RP, meaning your framework is truly valid, is truly something that adds value to the literature. So that's the keyword, adds value to the literature. Okay. I'm going to maximize my screen. Wait a minute, I'm going to read this off. Can you see my screen? I'm gonna minimize this. Okay, so let's begin with survey instrument or questionnaire. All of you are doing some sort of HR, marketing, entrepreneurship, operations management, what else? Marketing research that are based on quantitative data and also primary data. Okay, because the content of this research will be suitable for students who are using questionnaire-based data, which which they are respondents. Those are what we call as primary data. As for economic students and finance students, I maybe I'm not sure whether this knowledge session will be useful for you because for finance students and economic students, you are using panel data. Yeah, panel data means secondary data. Secondary data means data that is not obtained directly from an original source. Instead, your data comes from bank negara statistics, for example, from databases, from all those statistics regarding economics and finance. And you do panel data, we're talking about longitudinal or trend-based study, time-based study. So the methodology will be different, the analysis will be different. So my talk is about research that employs variables, independent variables, and those who use statistical analysis that involve ordinary least squares like SPSS or regression, or also partial least squares and also CVSAM as well. As long as you have questionnaires that you comprise of variables, dependent variables, and other sort of variables like mediating or moderating, then like this session will be relevant to you. Perhaps for economic student or finance, maybe you are taking behavioral finance. When you talk about behavioral finance, you're talking about the use of latent variables. I will mention later on what does it mean by latent variables. Okay, survey instrument, bila orang cakap instrument, apa you fikir kan? Kalau pasal music, you're talking about, guitar, drums, and every stuff, kan? So in what else? In science and technology, when they do research, instruments are using macam, if you remember, any one of you who enrolled in biology, physics, chemistry classes during your Form 4 and Form 5, during your high school days, you use all those apparatus, right? Because in science and technology, especially in pure science, you are using these apparatus. These are instruments for you to measure. In medic, for example, how do they measure your temperature? They use specific devices, right? They use a weighting scale to be quantified, to be somewhat active, and hence we need to have instruments, which is essentially your questionnaire, your items here. So this one sort of is suitable for. Oh, my connection is not clear. I'm breaking up, is it? Okay. So Cisco is advising me to turn off my background webcam. Mm, okay, my voice breaking up again, or else I'm gonna restart my modem. Okay. Um, Ati, can you hear my sound? Can you hear my voice? Bukan. Can I see your voice? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can, but sometimes it's quite breaking up.
Actually, I think that has something to do with my connection, which appears to be unstable. Okay. According to my connection here, it says 5 bar. Is it clearer? I think I turn off my camera, okay? So kalau I turn off my camera, bolehlah I makan ke sekali-sekala? Alright. So you guys can eat also, if you're hungry. How to wait? how to turn off? Wait a minute. Where's my... I'm gonna stop share for a while. I'm gonna stop my video and see how it goes. Apa hati saya dah air ni, saya tak ada sikit. Okay, may I know anyone here who's who are foreign students? Can you raise your hand for foreign students? Do you have China students here? China students from the from China. We have a lot of Chinese students. No one. No Chinese students here. How about Middle East students? African from Africa. Can you raise your hand? Hati, turunlah tangan tu, Hati. your, your head, your head sangkut. Okay. Oh, no one is responding. Okay, because sometimes I do speak in bilanguage. When I make jokes in Malay. So I'm afraid if you are foreign students, you might not understand. Okay, you might not understand. All right. So blah 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 blah. Is my voice breaking up or not? My voice, is it breaking up or not? Okay,
So far,
Makli,
so
thank
good,
you very
Doctor.
much. Right. Okay. Now baru I faham kenapa my students masa ajar online kan, they always turn off their webcam. Probably because of internet connection. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go back to the survey. So when we talk about close-ended, of course, we're talking about objective questions. You are giving options to your respondent to answer. Open-ended means something that is quite subjective. You are asking their opinion. Why do you think this phenomenon is occurring, for example? So the information of interest include knowledge, attitude, behaviors, or social demographic characteristic, and so on. So the most important part when you are doing a quantitative research and when you are dealing with psychological and also primary data, you always comes with what we call as latent variable. Apa maksud latent tu? I'm sure you always heard about variable. Variable means factors. They can be dependent or independent. The most important thing that what we call as that differentiate us with people who are doing panel data. Okay, panel data means those people who are doing economic study. In economics, they use hard data, meaning if let's say it's GDP, domestic product. Okay, GDP can be represented by itself. Okay, when I talk about a GDP, it is in dollars or ringgit, right? How many billion that is produced within the country. When we talk about GDP, it's about the value of market and services that is being generated in a particular country. Right? Okay, those that are dealing with hard data, those are not latent variable. But when we talk about latent variable, mostly we are doing research in business, in psychology, in education. These are variables that actually represent concepts. Okay, I'm sure that your variable, if you are doing marketing, of course you are doing something like purchase intention, loyalty. If you are doing HR, maybe you employ latent variables such as job performance, maybe burnout, maybe stress, maybe organizational justice. So these are basically concept. You can ask your respondent, okay, please answer this question. For example, performance. So performance needs some indicators. Okay, there must be some indicators that represent performance. Okay, same also like stress, purchase intention, reuse intention. In technology, we have, for example, use intention or continuous intention of a system, right? I mean, for health administration, maybe your health condition. Okay, outside clinical studies, of course, in clinical studies, they don't use data variable. They look at your blood pressure, they look at your, all those indicators, biological markers that can be obtained from your pathological samples. But as a social science researcher, as a business researcher, we are dealing with latent variable because it is a concept that is not directly observed, but are rather inferred. Inferred means we make assumption how this variable is performing based on the manifest variable that is being observed. Okay, what are actually manifest variables? These are the manifest variable. Can you see here? So those who are already exposed to SEM, ada tak anyone here who already use SEM? Okay, these are some graphical illustrations that you always familiar when if you are using SEM, it will look something like this. Okay, so the top here comprise of a latent variable, and those manifest items here, what we call as manifest variables, or what we call as items that you use in your questionnaire. So these items will be the scores will be aggregated and calculated depending whether the structure is it formative or reflective. Okay, thank you Fazila. That is also as called as indicators. Okay, indicators. If you use SEM, okay, it can be either reflective. Reflective tu hujan Reflective tu means macam hujan kan. This is what called reflective. Formative means the item is going up. The arrow is going up. Okay, the arrow is going up. I'm not gonna explain in detail into that because that is quite an advanced statistics. All right, I'm gonna skip this one because I'm sure all of you are doing close-ended questionnaire because you wanted to codify your information. Basically, most of you are using Likert scale, right? Likert scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree, for example, frequent to rare or not, or for example, never use. So these are all what we call as close-ended question. So when you do survey administration, so you have many channels, for qualitative researchers, you use face-to-face or telephone interviews. For quantitative researchers, you can use straight what you call that? Also face-to-face when you deliver your questionnaire. Okay, and also you use a SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. These are online-based questionnaires. So there are many different types of questionnaire. I'm not going to elaborate on this so much, but I'm sure right now since the economy is opening up, okay, the economy is opening up. So I'm sure your supervisor have prefer you to use face-to-face questionnaire. Okay, because it depends. When last time when we had this lockdown or movement control order, you can't you can't see face to face, and therefore pivot to you have to the problem with electronic questionnaire. The high non-response rate is difficult for you to get 50-60%. Sometimes most of the time might get only 10-20%. Okay, an online survey that I have conducted in recent months, 2-3 months ago, can you believe me that I get less than 5% of response rate? And the worst thing about electronic questionnaire is that so by doing this online, the respondent don't really understand it. You need to clarify to your respondents what are your questionnaire is all about, because when the respondents cannot answer your questionnaire as accurately as possible, or perhaps they are confused, then what happens is that your the data that you will be collecting will probably the validity will be affected. Number one, and the worst thing that is unreliable. Okay, non-reliable and non-validity means that your research will go kaput. Your research will will be worthless because you cannot run you cannot check your hypothesis, you cannot run your regression because your construct is not valid. Okay, this the thing that I always say to my students, when you see your respondents, when they answer, for example, you are not using a negatively worded items in your questionnaire, but then your respondents, when they answer question one, they answer five. Let's say you have a 1 to 5 like a scale. Number one, you say five. Your respondent answer five. Question two, your respondent answer two. And then question number three, your respondent answer five again. And then number four, your respondent answer the like a scale one. So what does it mean? It means that it is high in inconsistency, which will affect your validity and of course your reliability, especially when you run EFA using SPSS or CFA using SEM, whether it's AMOS or Smart PLS. Okay, so that's why in right now when economy is opening up, when the Prime Minister, okay, now everyone does not have no longer restrictions, so right now it's possible for you to do mail questionnaire. Of course, the response rate there is always low, but that is better than electronic questionnaire. Okay, in this case, okay, you are the enumerator as a researcher. You are, okay, I'm not talking about meal, sorry. This is meal. When you talk about personally administered questionnaire, you are face to face. You can establish rapport and motivate respondents. You can clarify doubts on the spot. Nampak tak ni? Doubts. Doubts tu maksud dia kecelaruan lah, ketidaktentuan. Of course, respondents can easily confuse because items that you ask in your questionnaire.
Oh.
Yes. Am I breaking up? Oh, sorry. Oh no. Yelah, my bar goes into one. Okay. Does
Laki
this
pula tu.
does this happen frequently or is it just happening now? Is it recently or is it been happening for the past 10 minutes? My voice breaking up. Okay, if my voice is breaking up, okay, I'm gonna restart my router, Unify router. Okay, please stay in the room, please stay in the room. Okay, I give you some 5 minutes for you to munch into something, Padahal alasan untuk saya ngap sekejap kan. Okay, so wait for me for 5 minutes, Dr. Hafiz, I nak log off kejap, nak reset I wanted to reset my, what do you call it? My router, because my connection is unstable. Biasa macam tu, it's normal, my Unify ni. So I'm gonna come back again in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Boleh, Dr. Hafiz? Oh, Dr. Hafiz. Ati, boleh dengar Ati? Okay, can you please stay in the room, I'm going to reconnect my PC, all right? I'm going to reconnect my PC. Okay, everyone, we have a 5-10 minutes break because I'm going to reconnect my internet router, I apologize for these technical difficulties. Inilah nama dia service recovery, Nak kena belajar dengan Dr. Hafiz kan? Okay, alright. Okay, see you in 10 minutes. All right. Assalamualaikum. Everyone, can you hear me? So can we continue? Okay, where were we just now? Okay. Now let's look at personally administered questionnaire. So like I mentioned earlier, um, it's good, huh? It's good when you are doing your PhD, you are the one who are actually engaging with your respondents. Because when you are personally administering your questionnaire, okay, I know it can be too difficult. Okay, when I did my PhD, I was chased away by security guards. That is common. Yeah, that is the experience. So it's better if you are personally administering the questionnaire yourself because You can establish rapport, like I mentioned. You can provide a proper introduction. Okay, it can be, you can provide, you can clarify, you can explain. Because respondents, sometimes they are very lazy to read your cover letter. And then especially when you have questions that are quite too much questions, like 60 questions, 70, okay? Usually when the respondent reach the second part of your questionnaire, they will feel tired. They will feel tired, and you know, probably they started to, started to become less focused. So by ensuring that you are staying close with your respondent, so you can always be there to answer questions that may arise. Okay, especially certain parts whereby, if you put negatively worded question, you might want it to remind your respondent, oh, this question is a negatively worded question, so be careful in answering that. Because in many cases, your respondents will tembak. Tembak means they just answer arbitrarily, five, 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 straight lining, something like that. So your presence, together with the respondents, you are actually allowing you are available to clarify, to solve any issue that the respondents may face. Okay, but somehow there might be disadvantages in terms of the effort, but then that's PhD, okay? You need to put in a lot of effort, and that might also may include some sort of a bias. Okay, maybe the respondents feel that, okay, you are in front of me, so this question is sensitive, so the respondent is not being himself or herself and answering. Okay, mail questionnaire is mostly used by researchers who are doing strategic management or marketing. For example, you wanted your respondents are not people, not say not people. Your unit of analysis are not employees or consumers, but your unit of analysis is and also companies. So there must be a representative from the company, right? Especially SMEs, okay? When you wanted to collect data from SMEs, this is an option that researchers adopt, but it can be old-fashioned and obsolete, and they can take a very long time to respond. Because when letters comes in, they can just say that, oh, this is not urgent. There are so many other correspondents that are more urgent than this. So it takes a lot of time. Okay, I can hear reflection of my voice. Is it my forgot the response rate? Like question, unless perhaps if if the okay, so these are the pro and cons of self-administered structured questionnaire. Okay, usually effective and it's easy to receive, convenient. Uh, okay, because you are the one who are actually administering it yourself. Okay, but on the flip side, there might be low response rate. Okay, especially if you send by post or email, you have no control over who fills the questionnaire. This is, let's say, if you are using an enumerator, sometimes the enumerator doesn't follow your instruction. So the person who answered the questionnaire is not exactly the target respondents. So that can be dangerous as well, because that will somehow distort your data. The how does your data integrity looks like, and that can affect your validity and reliability. So, and you also might refer frequent follow-up or reminder if, let's say, when you send through post or email, or you use enumerator, or you are not giving the option of answering on the spot. So you are hoping the respondent to return to you. So you will require follow-up and reminders. So as a general collection procedure, it has to be confidential. You need to make sure that the respondents is comfortable knowing that they are anonymous. Their identity will remain anonymous. So this is how preparing a cover letter, which I will show you at the end of this workshop, is very important, so that the answer will not be biased. Because people who feel that their identity is visible or transparent, that person will be very biased when answering. The answer may not reflect his or her true thoughts. So you need to really highlight that it is confidential, it will not be shared, it's only used for academic purpose. Okay. So when you design a questionnaire, basically it's like how you are preparing a research. You need to have a proper RQ and RO, meaning that what is your research question or objective? What are you aiming for? So when you know what you are aiming for to means the context of your research. If you wanted to do, for example, stress, burnout, and turnover intention, for example, so who are the target population? Are you talking about the health workers, the nurses? Are you talking about call center operators? So you need to identify who are the population of your sample. Your population tu bukan, it's not the whole Malaysian, not the whole 30 million residents of Malaysia. No. Even if you do marketing, it's not necessarily everyone. So identify your population, which you need to clarify in chapter 3. Okay, don't be confused. Population dengan samples. What are population? Population is the target, the people who you wish to generalize, because the target of your study will only cover a subsegment of people who you are able to reach through your questionnaire. Kan? When I talk about population, population is actually the people who you wish to be represented through your research, through your samples. Okay, and then only then you formulate questions to answer your research question, meaning that you adapt and adopt your items, indicators that you use in your questionnaire. Only then you organize your questionnaire into questionnaire booklet, for example, or perhaps in Google Forms, in online questionnaire. Okay, and you prepare a validation, some sort of a questionnaire validation form, and you consult with experts. Okay, please then when you consult the experts, you don't give the exact questionnaire that you wanted to give to your respondent. Bukan. You have to prepare a new format whereby, because the the one that you are giving this questionnaire is not your respondents. They are content validators. Kan? They are academic experts. So they must need to be a different format when you put in all your questionnaires. So you give some room for the expert. Usually they are professors, academicians, or industry experts, for them to fill up their comments, for them to say whether should this item be retained, should this item be maintained, or is it should the item be removed, or perhaps there is some tweaking. Tweaking means adjustment to the wordings of the items. Okay, so when you have the green light from your content validity experts and also your supervisor, it's time for you to do pre-test and pilot test. I will tell you earlier. I will tell you later what do these two terms really means. And of course, you need to go to ethical standards, where you need to go to REC, right? UiTM, we have REC, Research Ethics Committee. Okay, for Research Ethics Committee, you need to check with your relevant faculty on how to file the application. At the moment, still using manually, meaning that you are using email. You need to attach your application forms and send through emails. But in a few months, they will be using a system. Your ITM will be using a system. So please keep updated on this development. Okay, now, this is actually something that I always teach in research method class. I'm sure every one of you have undergo research method class. So you need to understand that every variable can have different level of measurement. Okay, and most likely is that your measurement will need to have a higher statistical power, or higher statistical what you call that, to reflect whether your variables, is it high, is it low, Is it something that can you can compare? So if you can recall from your research method class, there are four different types of measurement. From the lowest, we have nominal. Okay, nominal means you can see that one is different from another, but you cannot see that one is better than the other. Faham tak? It's like gender, right? You have male and female, which are totally different. But you cannot say that male is better than female or females are better than male. Okay, you cannot assign a value. Faham tak? You cannot assign a value that one is better than the other, or one is in a higher position than the other. That is nominal. We are looking at what? We are looking at not also at gender, but perhaps so many things. Your religion, your ethnicity. Okay, those are nominal type of variable. And now we look at ordinal. Okay, ordinal, you can compare, and you can also one is better than the other. Which one do I like the most? But this information doesn't tell you is pizza two times tastier than spaghetti carbonara? It doesn't tell you that. Okay, it just tells you that if one is ahead or better than the other, but it cannot tell you by how much. All right. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the higher the order of the measurement, the precise is the statistical meaning that is attached to it. So in your research, you are doing most likely interval and ratio, but most likely is interval. Okay. When I talk about interval, it's like what you are doing in your research. And if you have past experience, when you do Likert scale, you have what? Strongly agree, strongly disagree, right? Meaning that you assign a number to it. Strongly disagree, number one, strongly agree, number five, neither agree nor disagree, which is in the middle, is number three. If you have a polarized scale from one to five, if you have a polarized scale between one to seven, and then the middle, oops, I can't press that button. Okay, if you have a one to seven scale, then what's the neutral number is number four. So these are interval scale. Okay, ratio scale means that okay, you have a consistent measure between one scale to another, but then you have an absolute zero. Okay, you have an absolute zero. This is something like your age, time, for example. Okay, the exact measurement of weight, of height, correct? These are ratio scale, but okay, in social science, when we use measurement like a scale, we seldom start from zero, right? So for all the variables, for most of the variables that you are using in your research, most likely they are what? Are they ratio or interval? They are they are interval scale. Okay, they are interval scale. Like I mentioned earlier, the higher the level of measurement, the precise is it, and the more accurate and the more powerful the statistical analysis that can be implemented. Okay, I'm not going to explain into this so much because this one are actually covered in your research method class. I'm sure that many of you have gone through IPSIS and also through other workshops as well. So what are the statistics that can be applied for this different level of measurement? For nominal, of course, you are talking about male, female. So the best thing that you can do is just a frequency tab, right? You are telling you are doing a bar chart or perhaps a pie chart. How many percent male? How many percent female? Okay. When you do ordinal, you are start to rank ordering, meaning that you can look at the median. Okay, remember median? You are like if there are students in the classroom, you ask them from the shortest to the tallest, stand beside one another in in an ascending arrangement. So who is the tallest will stand on the right, who is the shortest will stand on the left. Okay, and we have so many students here, and those in the middle, okay, this is the median. Okay, this is the median, and you can write the range and percentile ranking. That is ordinal. Okay, as for interval, of course, you can do all this. All this can be covered through interval, but the advanced statistic, not to say advanced, the statistics that interval type of data can be run. We can have standard deviation, mean, variance. All right, all this will actually can be calculated, and hence there are a lot more statistical analysis that you can run, such as regression. That's why regression we are talking about interval scale. Okay, interval scale preferring continuously measured variables. Okay, this is also the same when we talk about central tendency. Okay, central tendency is about what I call that, the normality. Well, how do we say normality? Normality means in this world, okay, the scientific community views that when you analyzing or when you are referring to to a certain phenomena, okay, in most cases the frequency will be symmetrical, or in simple words, it looks like a bell curve. Kan? Macam bell, loceng. It looks like a bell curve. All right. Okay, but in social science studies, most likely, do you notice that most of your respondents, they answer 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, and most of them answered 4 or 5, right? So when you run your analysis, that's why when you run your normality using Kolmogorov-Smirnov, I can't really sound like a Russian. Kolmogorov-Smirnov is difficult for you to get, you know, to prove your normality, because in social science, your data will not look like this. Okay? But in scientific studies, let's say if you wanted to measure in for example in pathology, in chemical, in other what you call that, in biology, yeah, it's different. Maybe the data will look in normally distributed, but in social sciences, most likely if you are answering positively worded questions, they are negatively skewed. If you are answering the negatively worded questions, it will be positively skewed. For example, if people answer one or two, kan? For example, if your questions negatively answered to means negatively worded questions means, oh, I do not like to do my job, for example. Of course, people will answer one or two because people have their own self-esteem, right? You don't want to show to your to your researchers that you are lazy, yeah? So you answer one because you know that you do your work. So the negatively worded questions, most likely, you know, it is skewed. Yeah, it is skewed towards, this is what called positively skewed, meaning the tail echo there is towards the right. Okay. Okay, skewed whale. And for negatively skewed, echo dia ke kiri, meaning the answers more towards 4 and 5. So you, most of the time you will encounter these two. That's why many of us are using apa, PLS, because PLS can deal with data that is not normal. But of course, people will always use AMOS also, no problem using AMOS, kan? Actually, there need to be justification when you use either PLS or AMOS, which I'm not going to explain here, but you cannot say to your examiner, oh, PLS is easier. Huh? By using PLS, my indicators are all, the loading will all exceed 0.7. If I use AMOS, then my loading will be low, and then there are so many cross loading, and I cannot run my analysis. That is actually, you are killing yourself in front of the examiner. It's like a kamikaze if you speak like that. So then there needs to be a clear reason why you use PLS or AMOS. Okay, now adapt instrument. Okay, I have been an examiner or panel of so many DRPs and also Viva. Uh, I see there are a lot of students, not to say a lot, quite a number of students who like to develop their own items. Don't worry, I was like that also, beginning. But then when I realized that what I did was wrong, I quickly adjust myself to find the right instrument. Okay, students, you cannot develop your own items here unless if you are doing a mixed method. Do you know mixed method? A mixed method comprises of qualitative and quantitative studies. You cannot say that, oh, I'm doing purely quantitative. I read my literature. I know what this construct means. Kan, you nak create your own variable. Contoh, oh, so many people use satisfaction. Why why cannot I use the word delight? Kan? Delightfulness. Cik kan, delightfulness. Staff ataupun employee delightfulness. Never been used in any literature. Suddenly you come up with the variable. And then the examiner will ask you, how come you arbitrarily tu sesuka hati create your own variable name without a proper theoretical foundation. So please be careful. Be careful about that. Okay, so I think uh, most of you know what is a Likert scale. You have anchor. Anchor tu maksudnya two extremes, whether is it positive or negative, whether it's strong or is it weak. The strength and intensity of experience is linear. You need to have a continuum from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Okay, I have around 100 slides, so I will be skipping some of the slides just to make sure that I deliver the most important content to all of you. Okay, these are quite advanced because previously in the scientific community, there are some people who are critical of Likert scale. Dia cakap Likert scale ni is not interval. So bila bukan interval, when it is not interval, you cannot run regression at all. Okay, there were previous researchers who are actually very critical of Likert scale. They claim as ordinal, which are not suitable for regression. But there are also other researchers that come up with justification that this interval is actually can this Likert scale can be actually treated as an interval variable because they are continuous and hence bring no harm when conducting a parametric statistical analysis. Apa maksud parametric? Bukan parametric Parametric ni is normality meaning that the what you call it, the distribution the distribution can be normalized. We talk about parametric. Okay, these are examples of a Likert scale response anchors. We have 5 points and 7 points, for example. If you are using the word satisfied, you need to make sure that, you cannot say that, oh, kalau sebelum ni orang guna disagree or agree, can you change to satisfied? Nope. You really need to look at previous sources. What are the skills? What were the skills that had been used earlier? Okay, and these are somewhat different types of skills, but I don't think all of these are widely used. Paling banyak use ialah ni, level of agreement. In 90% of most studies that use Likert scale, they use this anchoring. Strongly disagree to strongly agree, either 1 to 5 or 1 to 7. Okay, sometimes people cakap, oh, why not use an even number, 1 to 4, 1 to 6. But then I believe this is quite unfair to your respondents sebab there is no middle ground, faham tak? There is no neutrality in this. So respondents might have some sort of a bias when they will be forced to answer whether they agree or disagree. You understand me? There must be a neutral point between these two. And you tak guna perkataan apa? It's better to use the word neither agree or disagree. Actually, this is nor. You cannot use the word neutral. I not to say cannot, not recommended to use the word neutral. Better to use neither agree nor disagree. Okay, these are other, for example, other response anchors as well. The second widely used is this one. Frequency. frequency, something, some here. For example, maybe you are looking at, for example, whether you wanted to measure whether this kind of culture is it practiced or not in the organization. So you can ask this one, or stress, for example. Maybe this can fit that kind of questions. How many times do you feel stressed? All right, so you can refer to you can Google for this Vagyas Way 2006 for Likert type skill response anchors. If you wanted to have different examples of what kind of Likert skills that can be applied, but trust me, in most cases it will be strongly disagree or agree, and also what we call as frequency, seldom to frequent. Please do not arbitrarily sesuka hati kan assign responses and anchors. Refer to your original work in which items that you adapted from in order for you to assign the response anchors. All right. Now, let's look at the formulation of questions. Okay. Um, all right. So, like I mentioned earlier, students, you cannot develop your measures on your own or your variables on your own from that matter unless if you have a proper qualitative study or qualitative inquiry that have taken place. Qualitative is much more extensive. That one is beyond my beyond my expertise because I did my PhD purely quantitative because both my supervisors are quantitative person. In qualitative, you need to know the elements what we call as epistemology, constructivism, what type of paradigm. Are you talking about phenomenology? Are you talking about case study? Are you talking about grounded theory? Are you talking about ethnography? There's so many stuff when you do qualitative. And then there are a lot of interpretation, thematic analysis, saturation levels, and so on. Only then they can formulate the items. But if you are doing purely quantitative, which I'm sure most of your supervisors come from quantitative background, hence, please do not develop your own measure. So what you need to do is you either adapt or adopt, kan? Adapt or adopt the existing instruments. So the best practice is for you to communicate. So when you find, the instruments or items or indicators, you need to understand who's the original person who developed these instruments. And you look at the journal article and we try to type the name and try to find the email from Google, right? And why not communicate with the author and you can ask the feedback, okay? I also have several people when I publish my papers. I have people from Middle East, those people who studied in US, they ask me about their PhD and whether the items are suitable or not. Okay, because they can trace my email from the paper that I publish. Okay, and paling penting check if the measures are copyrighted or licensed. Sebab ada certain instruments yang licensed, faham tak? Meaning that if you are using the items without paying, you will become like Johnny Depp. Kenapa Johnny Depp? Jack Sparrow, pirate kan? Nangis-nangis Amber Heard ni. Johnny Depp versus apa? Apa? Amber Heard. Okay, I know you like all those gossip stuff, artist stuff. Okay, so don't don't become the root of a Jack Sparrow. Some elements like I'm not sure transformation leadership. I think there are certain leadership. What you call that? Leadership items. And then what else? Macam leadership competency kan, it's licensed and you have to pay for every questionnaire. And then resilience, uh, resilience skill, resilience skill ni pun is copyrighted. When you wanted to use this skill, you need to purchase the skill. So tolong check the measures, are they copyrighted, are they licensed or not? Else, if you go into Viva, the examiner will see that you are actually becoming you are a pirate. then that can be a serious trouble for you. And you cannot publish the paper without you submit the proof that you have already acquired a proper permission, or or you really purchased the instrument. So please check whether that measures are really free for you to use. But don't worry, most of the items usually they are free. Most of the items. Okay, now when we look at formulation of questions, the questions of to either adapt or adopt. So what are the difference? It's quite the same, okay, except that adapt means you are making substantial changes. Perubahan yang agak ketara. For adapt, it's very simple and very little effort. Later on, I'll show you. Okay, for adapt follows the general design of other instrument but add or remove some items. Meaning there are certain items, okay, maybe you think it's not suitable within the context of your research and you wanted to remove the item, for example, okay? But for adopt, you just make a very slight modification to reflect specific questions. Okay, when you wanted to adopt your instruments, okay, adopt to means you are doing a simple modification. So you need to appropriately describe the instrument in the instrument section of chapter 3. Okay, have you all of you write chapter 3, students? In your proposal, you have this chapter 3, right? So there is a section called instruments. So in the instrument section, you need to elaborate. Okay, what are the variables that you use in your framework? And what are the indicators? Not to say what are indicators, from whom do you adopt the indicators from? Okay, so you need to do some sort of a cross referencing. We call it as backward or forward referencing. You need to know who originally developed the instrument. Kan? Katakanlah kalau you terjumpa paper I kan, I gunakan TPB contoh. Am I the one who developed the instrument? No. Kan? Kalau TPB you know each artisan, right? Kalau you gunakan you use UTAR, you come across the name Venkatesh, right? And also perhaps know other study who have used the instrument. Who validated me is just extra if there is an information, but if it's not possible, then it's okay. It's okay. Okay, this is just an example. Contoh nama dia panas kan. Not exactly measuring heat, but it is about positive and negative effect scale. So in this case, in that section, measurement, you need to highlight, for example, the items were adapted from blah, 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 blah. Okay, based on their research, it is reliable. Nampak tak? The data, the variable, the construct is reliable sebab from alpha dia above 0.7, right? Above 0.7. It means that those construct are reliable. Remember, for from alpha, it has to be 0.7. If using SEM, they call it composite reliability. Pun sama juga, lebih daripada 0.7. Okay, so it means that these indicators, measures, are fit for you to use. Okay, so the researcher should report the same information in the instrument section as when adopting the instruments. And then if you make changes, you need to highlight what kind of changes that you are making to the original indicators and why is it. Okay, okay, macam mana you nak justify kalau you make changes? For example, this one, this factor was judged as not applicable to Malaysian pre-service teachers. Additionally, an explanatory factor was added to the instrument to represent choosing teaching as a lazy, easy career with blah, 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 blah. Can you understand me? Because most of the instruments comes from the West, right? We're talking about European or North America, okay? Or perhaps New Zealand, Australia. But then, perhaps you are among the earliest who used this skill to study in the context of Malaysia or emerging market context. So this is how you justify in your thesis. Okay, why you make some amendments to the instrument because you wanted to fit to make sure that it's applicable to Malaysian respondents. Okay, you need to justify. You need to justify. All right. When you are selecting appropriate instrument for your key variables, Okay, you need to clearly define and make sure it's clearly operationalized. I always talk about this. Sometimes in your operationalization, you could clearly operationalize. What is operationalization? Operationalization is something like definition of terms. Tapi most students, when they put operationalization of terms, they just copy and paste from other research, and somehow that definition doesn't exactly fit with the research that you are doing. Okay, so operationalization means that the definition for the certain keyword, so for the certain variable that you're using, needs to fit into your research. Then it need to fit into the context of the study that you are doing. Okay, to elaborate on this will take a lot of time. Okay, hopefully I can reserve that for another future session. So, instruments are usually disclosed by the author. So, macam mana you nak tahu? Macam mana nak mencari? How can you find the instruments? I think it's simple, especially when you look for articles that analyzed using SEM, tak kisah whether AMOS or PLS, there will be a specific table whereby the authors will highlight what are the indicators for each item, what is the loading value, what is the average variance extracted, which is the AVE, average variance extracted, and also CR, composite reliability. Keyword dia reliability lah, ya. For those of you who are not familiar with SAM, composite reliability is a reliability indicator. Huh? If you are using normal SPSS, you call it Crowbar Alpha. Okay, but in SEM, Crowbar Alpha is not an indicator. It is called as composite reliability. It is quite the same. You wanted to measure the reliability of the data, sorry, of the particular variable. Okay, there are many set of instruments. Some may fit with your research, while others are not. Some may come from reputable sources that adhere to good research practice, while others do not. Okay, recently I'm a examiner for a panel for what you call it? For a defense research proposal. Okay, I'm sure that the student is a good student, very diligent student, but somehow the instruments are adapted from sources that for me is not that reputable. Okay, when I search using Scopus or Simago GR, okay, Simago GR is a website that you need to to look for when you wanted to know whether the journal is it something that you can you can adopt your questionnaire from, because this is what we call as a bibliographic what we call it uh, this is actually a bibliometric what call it bibliometric dashboard for Scopus. It's not Scopus itself, Simagoni, but it can provide you instant information on whether a journal is it high rank or is it low rank or is it not listed in Scopus at all. So please check with that website first. All right. So macam mana cara dia? How are you going to make sure that you are selecting the appropriate instruments? Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to learn how to do backward and forward referencing. Okay, what does it mean by backward and forward referencing? It means that I will show you to later. It's quite long. I will show to you later. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, ensure that the article comes from reputable index journal, Scopus, and Web of Science. Okay, for Web of Science, you can go to Easy Access. This is provided by UITM through the library. So you need to go through here and go to Web of Science and search for the article or the title of the publication. Okay, so actually, your supervisor, you need to tell or revert to your supervisors, okay, on the instruments that you feel is suitable. So what you need to do is compile all these instruments in a structured table. Tak kisahlah you nak masuk Excel ke Microsoft Word, okay. You analyze their suitability and relevancy. You compile all the instrument in Word, Microsoft Word, and you show to your supervisor. And don't forget to put the references, the name of the sources, of the measures, and discuss with your supervisor. So, when you wanted to know whether these instruments are, what we call this, want to know who developed the instruments, please identify the original author of who developed the key instruments. Often, it's not the author of the article that utilized the instrument. Can you understand me? So sometimes people think that, oh, okay, I find this paper. Inside this paper, I see a lot of what you call that, a lot of items. So that is the author who created the items. That is not necessarily true. Okay, I have seen one question. Nak adopt bulat-bulat, tak ada masalah. You nak adopt bulat-bulat, the examiner will not question you because if the items reflect the condition, the context of research that you are doing in, if you think that Malaysians can get used or have no problem in answering the questionnaire using that item, bulat-bulat kita ambil, tak ada masalah. Sama juga macam purchase intention kan. I intend to purchase this product kan in the next 3 months. So why not? Why not using the same item? Because it's still applicable whether you stay in Afghanistan or in Antarctica. It means that it is applicable in different geographical location. No problem. No problem. Alright, in the general article, refer to the method section. I mentioned earlier macam mana nak tahu that instrument comes from who. You take note, you go into backward referencing. Always go backward and forward referencing. Examine the original reference source. And siapa lagi yang cite this original source? Okay, so we're going to learn about backward reference searching. This is also known as chain searching, berangkai. Pencarian berangkai, chain searching, involves identifying and examining references or works cited in an article. So when you do backward reference searching, you will learn the historical development of the variable. You will learn and study the origins and development of the theory, construct, or model of interest. And you know the experts. Who are the experts? To which institution does he or she comes from? Okay. Yes, it can be adopted, but then, like I mentioned, okay, if the item is good enough, if the item is universal, why do you need to change the wording? Faham tak? If you see, katakan senang cerita, TAM lah, TAM model. Technology acceptance model, perceived ease of use, kan? I feel that this product, I feel that this system, this app is easy to use. Okay. Katakanlah you tak guna app tapi you gunakan website. You change lah perkataan app tu jadi website. So this website is easy to use. That is possible. That is possible. It's not like you are changing the whole sentences. I think that this app is easy to use because it is so simple and I like the app. Faham tak? You don't have to make the sentence so complicated. Okay? You don't have to make sentence so complicated. Uh, because when you are changing the words of the original items without the need, without you really understand why do you need to change the item in the first place, actually they will create more trouble. Kenapa trouble? Because you think that the item is so exciting for you. Tapi bila respondent jawab, they become more confused, kan? Daripada rambut Pantene tu jadi rambut Maggie kan? So your question is so weird. Okay. So remember, only change the wordings if you think that is necessary, and that will help your respondent to understand your questions. So examine the sources cited by the references used and go backward until the original of the author is found. Ini macam menggali, menggali kubur. It's like you are, korek kan. You wanted to find, you wanted to find who's the original source. Yelah, macam orang membawang pasal you kan. Wah, Hassan orang ni membawang pasal aku kan. So, you pun tanyalah kawan, korek kan. Siapa yang cerita pasal aku ni kan. So, same as like when you wanted to know who developed the sources, you need to go backward and go backward. Because in most cases, those people who develop the instrument, banyak tak citation dia. There are a lot of references that comes from these people. Okay, these are example, these are the major theories that has evolved over time. And correspondingly, the instruments or items used, for example, has changed and developed or have gone into evolution as well. You tak boleh cakap, oh, I use UTAUT too. It means that this one is all what? This one is all, what you call that? Obsolete. No. Ada lagi orang guna TPB, right? There are quite a lot of people use TPB, social cognitive theory. Ada juga people yang use TAM. But somehow there needs to be justification. If the theory or model is quite old, something like this, social learning theory, for example, atau TRA, examiner will ask you, kenapa tak guna TPB? Because TPB is developed by the founder himself, Ichik Ajzen. He, what you call that? He improvised his own earlier theory, same also as Albert Bandura. Okay, from SLT to SCT, social cognitive theory. Okay, you can see that there are quite a number of people that still use TAM. Tapi, of course, you need to integrate with other models or other theories as well. Because if you use only TAM or TPB, then you know, the reviewer or the examiner will ask you, why are you using an old theory without any integration? What value do you bring to your literature? Kebanyakan TPB lah. Kalau 15 years ago you use TPB, tak ada masalah. In your research, it is still considered as novelty. But currently it's 2022. 31 years have passed. 31 years have passed. So if you use only TPB, if you use attitude, if you use social norm, if you use perceived behavioral control, then what is your contribution? Your model only consists of these three IB, right? What is your contribution? Okay, now talking about talking about how you want to adapt or adopt, you need to understand the evolution of theories, models, concepts, in order for you to identify which measures could be the most recent that you can use. Okay, of course, TPB is still relevant, tetapi it has to be integrated with another theory or another concept. Expand the model beyond just attitude, SN, and PBC. Okay. Okay, everyone, can you follow with me? Kalau penat, we take a break. I think I'll start my timer because I talk non-stop. I create a timer. 5 minutes, nanti kita take a break. In another 5 minutes, we're going to take a break. It's already near 11, okay? It's nearly 11 already. Banyak lagi slide tak habis ni, ya Allah. Alright. So I'm gonna skip certain parts. Okay, forward referencing is for you to understand the paper that you think that the author is good. Do many people cite from that paper? That's another issue. That is another issue. Okay, you think that the paper is good, that you wanted to use the instrument, but you need to look. Orang lain pun menggunakan measurement yang sama, ataupun do other people are also citing that kind of work that you are also citing. So you need to do some sort of a forward reference searching. Okay, meaning that you need to consider newer methodology. Is there any newer developments? Okay, is there any expansion of the knowledge? So you examine more recent works of other researchers who also adopt or adapt the instrument that you are currently using. Okay, for example lah ya, bila cakap pasal Venkatesh, kalau you Google Scholar, you can see that it is cited so many ya. Previously it was 4,000. Trust me, sekarang ni when you type Venkatesh, so let me do some demonstration for you. You type je Venkatesh, you type kan, Venkatesh, you type poem. Oh, bukan Google Scholar, okay? Google Scholar. Search using Google Scholar. Ding dong, ding dong. Okay, Venkatesh. Gitu. Alright. Why it's not as much? Maybe it's Okay, can you see that the literature, if you Google Venkatesh, okay, how do you wanted to know whether, whether a certain theory is actually widely used? You look at the citation, eh? You look at the citation, kan? Because Venkatesh wrote a lot of papers, kan? Venkatesh wrote a lot of papers. So, by looking at the citation, you can know which of these papers uh, uh, are actually the most influential. For example, in my slide, when I did my slide something like a few years ago, it was 4,000 sahaja. Right now, how many is it? 10,000 already. Right now, 10,000 being cited. Uh, so, let's say, for example, you found the instrument from this paper by Viramutu, for example, in Government Information Quarterly. This is a good journal published in Elsevier, which is indexed in Scopus. Can you say that the items comes from Viramutu? You cannot say easily like that, right? You need to look at the paper itself, and eventually you will realize that Viramutu is actually adopting the instruments from Venkatesh. So who should you cite as the one that you are referring to when you use your measurement? Is it Viramutu or Venkatesh? Of course, it's Venkatesh, right? Although Viramutu is also using similar instruments as yours. Boleh faham everyone? For example, for Viramutu, can you see that Viramutu is actually some sort of adapting? Because for Venkatesh, he's actually examining UTAUT from the perspective of mobile internet. Tetapi Viramutu is studying e-filing. E-filing, kita tahu e-filing LHDN text. Viramutu ni from Malaysia. So he wanted to study e-filing, Malaysian e-filing. So what did he do? He changed the word. The use of, instead of mobile internet, it becomes e-filing. The word habit jadi apa? Automatic. Can you see here? Addicted. Maybe he feels that addicted is not suitable. So he changed into accustomed. Can you see that the pattern of the words are similar? HT1 to HT1, HT2 to HT2. I must use e-filing. Takkan nak cakap I must use mobile internet. Has become natural to me, has become a necessity. Okay, although when Venkatesh says that this item is dropped, but then Viramutu thinks that it is still relevant, and then tetapi maksudnya tidak lari, faham tak? The original meaning does not stray away. So instead of becoming natural, it just say here has become a necessity. So students, can you follow with me or not? Hello, hello, moshi moshi. Ding dong. Okay. Okay, my smartwatch have already rang, which says that we need to take a break for a short while. So I'm gonna see you back again, perhaps in another 10 minutes. Go take something, some coffee for you to drink. I'll see you later in the next 10 minutes. Okay, everyone. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back. InsyaAllah, to the workshop. So where was I? I'm going to share my screen again. So are you all of you ready? Everyone? Can you hear me loud and clear? Okay, thank you, Mentari. Okay, all right, so now, I wanted to tell you something. When you do your PhD, okay, especially in a new area, something that is quite different from what your supervisor is doing, you will actually become an expert in that field when you graduated. And also, you know everything about what you do, okay? You will know everything about what you do. So you cannot think, you cannot assume that your supervisor will, will scrutinize whether the items that you are using, is it something good, or you wanted your supervisor to search for you the exact items. Okay, because as a PhD student, you need to search around and find your own supervisor. Sorry, my supervisor. Find your own items. Amara supervisor you. Find your own items, indicators, instruments. So in this case, I recommend you, okay, this is information skills, okay? You need to structurally, how to say, structurally organize your PDF articles. Okay, you arrange according to folder, susun dalam folder. You name the folder according to the topics or relevancy of the articles that are located in that folder. Okay, and you prepare a table something like this. This is actually prepared by my student, was prepared by my former student, Nurul Shafika. Okay, and yeah, so she has already graduated and now she's doing a PhD in UK. Okay, so when she wanted to, to verify her model, I asked her to show me, okay, what are the measurements that are suitable to be used. Okay, what are the what we call that, the definition for each variable according to different authors. So this is just example. How can a student come up with instruments and measurements so that the student can discuss with the supervisor. So this is something that you should do. And I always ask this to my students. Okay, Aisyah, Fahmi, are you there? Fahmi, tak ada. Okay, I'm sure you're familiar with this, right? Okay, so as for me, I always ask my student to do something like this, okay? So there is a template, what we call as a research template. Every supervisor has their own method. So you cannot compare me with your supervisor, eh? Don't compare me with your supervisor. Okay, usually I will ask my student to write the title, to create the model. This is not from my student, and this is my research with Dr. Amili. Currently, we are doing this research, but basically the flow is the same. So let's say this is example that I'm doing. Example that I'm doing. Tak apa, jangan risau tengok model tu. Jangan garu kepala. This is just example, okay? Bukan I suruh you all buat macam ni kan. So you need to put the theories kat sini kan. What are the theories that you are using? And how does your model looks like? And who are the main proponents, or what we call as who are the main sources of instruments that you'll be adapting from? Okay, and what are the dependent variable? Okay, this is just example saja. And highlight what are the underlying theories. Okay, make sure the references are available at the end of the PowerPoint, for example. And I mentioned what are the theories all about so that my team members they understand. Cognitive load, for example. And paling penting, like I mentioned earlier, you need to operationalize your construct. It means that you need to understand what does this construct mean that you use in your framework. Every variable that you use in your framework, you need to explain apa maksud dia. What does it mean by social presence? What does it mean by teaching presence? What does it mean by cognitive presence? And blah, 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 blah. Everything here you need to provide the definition and operationalization. Most students, I always see that they are not sure. They just copy and paste from other people or other researchers without understanding whether betul ke do this variable, the meaning is actually this, and this. Okay, so for example, I wanted to study this one happened during the pandemic, whereby people were learning in online classes, and we wanted to know whether the element of cognitive load and internet stability can affect their learning outcomes. So by using this theory, for example, I need to identify what does it mean by each of the variables that I put in the framework, or the variables that are included in the research objective and the research question. So I need to identify what does it mean by social presence, cognitive presence. Okay, so these are the important definition that you should also highlight in layman term. Tak perlu letak all this citation when you put in your questionnaire. Remember, your questionnaire is not like your thesis. Okay, don't make it complicated for your respondents to understand. Just re-simplify these words in your questionnaire so that before your respondents they start answering, they know, oh, social presence meaning like this. Okay, cognitive, it has another meaning which is different. Okay, so that will help your respondent to to answer accurately. So every variable have their own definition. Okay, and then just highlight what are the demographics that you wanted to put in, and and then you need to put a definition in the questionnaire. What does it mean by course? Right? The thing is that we wanted to verify if the students are satisfied with online learning, not with the course, not with the university, okay, not with the platform. Okay, it's just we wanted to know whether the students, how well can they can they adapt to online learning. Okay, so you need to verify, you need to clarify. Online learning means teaching and learning activities that were conducted remotely via the internet for the course. And this term is also known as ODL in UITM. ODL not online, it's open distance learning. A platform refers to the online website that you use to engage in online learning. So in this case, the word platform, so the student will know, oh, platform ni refer kepada either Google Meet or, for example, Future, the online learning platform that the student is using. So when you ask, for example, the students, please identify the specific online learning platform that is most frequently used. So when the student understand the word platform, so the student can know, oh, which one is the main platform that the student use. For example, is it the internal platform, like for UITM, we have Future, is it Classroom, Teams, app, and so on? Choose either one. So, kenapa pentingnya? Why is it important for them to really answer this question? Because there are certain variables that need that goes back to that type of platform. For example, this one, self-efficacy refers to your confidence in using the online platform. Nampak tak soalan dia macam ni? All of the following questions refer to your confidence of using the online platform that you have answered. See, it refers back to the early question that I showed you. So whatever the respondent is answering, it should be based on the earlier answer that he or she have chosen. Can you see here? Okay, I feel confident in using the online learning platform. I feel confident in using the online learning platform, meaning that this relates back to the answer that has been submitted by the respondents. Okay, so that's why it's very important for you to highlight, to define, to clarify what does the platform, what does online learning platform means. Or else, kalau dia tak jawab soalan tadi, the student will feel, apakah benda online learning platform? Is it is it talking about YouTube? Is it talking about other online services? So the students are unsure. When the students are unsure, they will, you know, they will affect your total data structure. So that is very important for you to always provide a clear instruction. This is a clear instruction. Okay, this is also a clear instruction. Just give a short, can you see, just a short and simple definition so that they can understand. Learning control is the extent to which you possess control over your own learning experience, sequence, and pace. All right. And these are some amendments that I've made according to the comments by the expert validator from the Faculty of Education. All right. So there are certain adjustment to the original items. For example, as this one, as this one is adopted, is adopted. Okay, there is what I call minor changes. So this is an example of something that I am expecting from my student. So you know the skill that you are doing. You know what is the anchoring of the skill, and you know that the skill are actually credible because it comes from good sources. Can you see here? Kazan adapted from Leping, Pas Van Gogh, Den Verwerken orang Belanda, Netherlands, Van Marenboer. Okay, so everything must be here. But don't worry, if you are just new into this, for each of the variable, I propose you come up with four or five different set of items that you show to your supervisor and discuss with your supervisor. Supervisor, inshallah, will know the best for you. Okay, the supervisor will perhaps, choose the right type of instruments for you. Tetapi you have to show to your supervisor what are the items that are suitable and make sure that the definition is clear. See here, it is a situation where the online learning process appears to be very complex. That is the meaning of intrinsic cognitive load. Okay, this one is what you show to your respondents. Tetapi intrinsic cognitive load can be, nampak tak? It is much more complicated when you write in thesis, right? When you write in thesis, it is more complicated. You cannot copy and paste the same thing in your thesis and give it to your respondent. Nanti dia menggaru kepala dia tak faham kan? So you just make it simple like this, right? It is a situation where the online learning process appears to be very complex. And then you read this one. All of the following questions refer to the online course that you are experiencing during CMCO, okay, during the lockdown, because this occurred last year. So meaning that when the students answer this one, they are related to the situation or to the earlier terms that you have discussed earlier, that you have clarified earlier. So in this case, okay, the respondent will understand and will answer according to your instruction. So can all of you follow me? Boleh ya? Okay, when I say this leping past, all these authors that you put in the here, Law Gan Li, Lao Yu Li, Lao Gan, Lao Li. Okay, so you need to go back, you need to provide to your, ni contoh tak siap lagi, contoh saja. You need to provide to your supervisors who are, what are the sources that you use. And then your supervisor will tell you, oh, competence education, this one from Elsevier, Q1, Q2 article in Web of Science, it's good. Competence education, all right? And quite a good book, for example. So you need to ensure that the source of publication are actually listed on index in Scopus, education psychology. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have a few, what I call that, a few instruments that were adapted from conference sources, tak ada masalah. As long as it is indexed, nama tak, Springer ni usually indexed in Scopus, and it is also referred to by other prominent scholars. Maksudnya, it has quite a good number of citation. It is something that you can trust. Okay, kalau boleh, you cannot have all your variables semua adapted from conference proceeding. Faham tak? majority of them should come from journals, should come from journals, and should come from journals with from credible sources. Like I mentioned earlier, from Scopus Index journals, preferably from Scope, from Emerald, from Elsevier, from Springer, from all those good publishers. So these are just the format that usually I want my student to discuss with me with this kind of format. So everything is clear. You know what you are doing. You know what is your underlying theory, and you know who are the top authors in the field. This one is good, also good. Like me, supervisor, I want my students to know who are the top authors in the field. For example, Richardson, Sweller, kan. Macam katakanlah, kalau you buat market orientation, but you don't know who is Coley Jaworski, for example. And then examiner will ask you, do you really read? Do you really understand your topic? Faham tak? In any field that you are doing, regardless marketing, human resource, motivation, you need to know the guru. You know, right? The guru. The guru means the people who are prominent, people who always refer to those kind of authors. Some of them have passed away and some of them still live. Kan? Macam Hudson, for example, rasa dia hidup lagi. Hudson. We're not talking about the older ones, like hierarchy of needs. Maslow dah meninggal kan. But many of the authors, I'm sure they still live and they still publish papers. Okay, in education, these are among the top names. These are among the top names that publish influential articles in education and also online learning technology. Okay, so you need to know this. You need to know this. Kalau you kena examiner panel that, you know, who are expert in this, and you cannot ask, then that can sound serious trouble to you. Okay, and you also need to know class pula, students. What are the top authoritative journals in the field? That's why you need to go to Simago, right? What are the journals that you should be referring? Okay, you should be referring to good journals within the field. Like in this study, I refer to here, everything, and we target to publish in here. Inshallah, we target to publish in these journals from Elsevier. Okay, but there are a lot of journals and you need to highlight. And these are from the journals that you need to browse through. You can use easy access. And you can also become Johnny Depp by going to Sci-Hub. Jangan buat tak tahu Sci-Hub. Okay. This is off record. Dah cakap off record. Apa kan? Tengah record kan? Okay. But if you can't access articles from, let's say, Sage kan? Sage. Lagi Taylor Francis. These are among the good publishers yang UiTM tak subscribe. Taylor Francis. Lagi JSTOR. JSTOR lagi. Springer you boleh dapat melalui ni ResearchGate Springer you can access through ResearchGate You just name the journal, you go to ResearchGate, and Springer make its article open access through ResearchGate. You cannot search through Google Scholar. You need to go to ResearchGate and search any journals that are published under Springer, and you can get the paper. You can get the paper free of charge. For other journals that are not subscribed by UiTM, go to Sci-Hub. I think it can be TW. I think the ending can be short. Okay, I cannot tell much on this because it will take much more time. Okay, but I hope that you know. You need to understand. You need to know in your fingertips what are the journals that you should be referring that are related to your topic, and perhaps you can dream or you wish that someday you can publish in these journals. In these journals. Remember, PhD is a lifelong journey. It's a journey that you really appreciate. And you have children, you need to be proud of yourself. Okay? Because yesterday I had some discussion with professors, Prof. Norma, Prof. lagi, ramai dah pension, but they are currently nurturing leaders among UiTM. Prof. Norma from accounting. Okay, she told me because I mentioned to her, it's difficult for me to make sure that even my students are writing. So senang je Prof. Norma cakap dengan I. Okay, kalau student tu lihat nak ambilkan PhD dia, kalau dia ada anak, if the PhD student has kids, Okay, don't tell the supervisor. Huh? Student has to tell their children, Papa Mama nak quit lah PhD. How do you feel? How do you feel when you see that your children, say the same when they wanted to pursue after SPM? Yeah. So take that as a challenge, okay? Because sooner or later you will have children, and you wanted your children, to be successful, to never be give up. So don't give up, because there are many times in PhD that you feel you wanted to give up. Every candidate feel the same. Me too. I felt the same too when I did my PhD. Because there are so many challenges. Not only with having to read so many journals, with work-life balance, with all kind of stress. This is a challenge that you have to take. And you prove to your children that I can do it. And sooner or later, you are going to score in your SPM, and then you are also going to pursue learning in universities. So take that as a challenge. If you wanted to withdraw or if you wanted to quit, just think what kind of implication that will bring to your children. Sorry, that one is just to motivate something that I can relate to yesterday when I had a brief talk session with Prof. Noma through online discussion. So it's quite very insightful for what she had been sharing with me. Okay, so don't give up. Doing PhD, it's difficult, I know, but it's not impossible. It's never impossible. And trust me, please keep on writing and stop reading without writing. If you are keep reading this article, dah setengah jam dah baca artikel, sooner or later, if you don't get anything much from it, you will stuck in the middle of nowhere, stuck in the ocean of nowhere. So that's why when you wanted to write, just close all those WhatsApp, YouTube, TikTok, okay, shut it off, okay. And then when you use a timer, get a timer using your smartphone, smartwatch. I have a smartwatch over here, okay, and keep on writing, putting all your ideas. Only then you continue reading again, okay. Don't read too much without writing. Okay, that is just my brief tips, because students, they are not moving sebab when they read, they become more kelabu asap, means they become more confused, don't understand, and then they cannot write at all. All right. So back to the topic, please understand. How do you wanted to know the journal to related ke tidak? Go to Simago. And Simago will give suggestion. This journal is linked to this one. This journal to this one. This journal linked to this one. And you can cross-reference. All right. Okay, so these are just the example, like what I instructed my students to do. So when the supervisor see all these instruments are ready, usually the supervisor will say, okay, you know what you are doing. I'm sure that you are ready for your DRP. Okay, katakanlah kalau you DRP, but you don't have this, okay, you don't have your framework, everything in place. Actually, that spells trouble for you. So you really need to you really need to provide all that stuff in terms of framework, variables, the operationalization of the variables. Okay, these are just an example from my former student. Okay, all right. What else? Okay, now, ni macam I tunjuk tadi, in chapter 3, you need to highlight, okay, for the variable that you're proposing in your framework. Where's my pointer? Okay, my pointer is working. Okay, let's say you are doing this, okay? So you need to highlight in your chapter 3, okay? What is the source? How many items do you adopt? What is the conceptualization of the particular variable? Okay, many students, they like to copy and paste from previous sources. In the end, the definition actually is different from the variable that you are actually proposing. So in this manner, I wanted to show you an extra slide. This one is a slide that I teach for my coursework students under research methods, OSM 701. I think this is also applicable to all research subjects for masters, for PhD. Okay, most people, they are not, I mean, like, they do not clearly define their variable. For example, for IMO, because this is the variable that I use for my PhD. This is very general. On the left here is very general. Okay, because this one is directly copy paste from the guru, Kohli Jaworski. Market orientation is blah 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 according to Kohli Jaworski and Kumar. Okay, because this is the earliest proponent uh, of the concept of market orientation. You cannot just transport this exact definition into your thesis. No. What am I doing now is that this Kohli Jaworski, he is actually developing the model according to organization. Why? Organization means that the unit of analysis is an organization. But my research is individual employees because it is individual market orientation rather than market orientation by itself. So I develop my own, not I say I develop my own definition. No, I use my own wordings to reinforce the earlier definition by Colin Jaworski and position this definition according to the context of my research. So I just say that defined as the employee's market-oriented behaviors pertaining to acquisition, dissemination, and responsiveness to customer knowledge. This operationalization is in line with Schlosser and McNaughton and adaptation of orang asal guru dia, Cody and Jaworski's organization market orientation to reflect market orientation from the perspective of the individual employees. Barulah fit dengan kajian saya. See? Okay, proceed is of use. Siapa yang guna tam? Tam, you tak kan? Kalau you tak, kita panggil dia uh, performance expectancy as perceived EOU, PEOU. PEOU. Alright? So, the orang kata Davis, the earlier definition, the original definition, read something on the left. It is the perception that how much effort to be put in between using a system, okay, for increasing and to what extent technology can be understandable. Dia bukan intention, ni talking about perceived ease of use, the independent variable. Okay, katakanlah you student PhD, you nak buat mobile payment pakai NFC. Okay, NFC ni is not about touch and go e-wallet ataupun boost grab. No, it is mobile payment technology that use your hardware with NFC built-in capacity macam Samsung Pay, apa nama? Uh, Apple Pay, yes, Apple Pay. You need to have an Apple iPhone to connect Apple Pay. Maksudnya kat sini you just touch your handphone or in close proximity to the terminal, then everything works like you put your credit card. So, adakah kiri ni does the definition on the left reflect the research that you are doing? Is it? Maybe yes, tetapi not too accurate. Not accurate. It is too general, right? You are not talking at all about mobile payments. But when you look at your definition on the right, okay, when you look on your definition on the right, it talks about the effort put in by a consumer in using an NFC mobile payment system when conducting over-counter payment transaction. Dekat sini dia tak cakap pun, when you wanted to check out from Maidin or sorry from Aeon, for example, from Aeon Mall. No, this one it talks about over-the-counter payment, meaning when you buy something, you want to check out at the cashier. Okay, that is OTC. And apa tak? It relates with the situation of your research. It is considered important when it comes to adapting new system and technology. Can you see that this one is much more specific to your research? Okay, for example, self-efficacy in changing online banking password. Self-efficacy, it comes from the theory of SCT and also SLT by Albert Bandura. Sorry, SLT. Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura is the guru that, the one who developed the construct self-efficacy. And this self-efficacy is also used in IT studies. So, memang betul, this Bandura, self-efficacy is a personal judgment of his or her capabilities to organize and execute courses of action required to attain designated type of performance. Okay, katakanlah you are doing online security or security in online banking and self-efficacy is the independent variable. Does this definition sufficient or not for your thesis? Of course not. Bukan kata tak betul, okay? It is a definition from Bandura, but then it is not specific to your field of PhD topic. So you need to mention it clearly. Self-efficacy refers to the users. Nama tak ada perkataan user because you are online banking user, kan? Ability and ease in taking effort to perform protective behavior, which is to secure their password information. Barulah kena dengan tajuk thesis you kan. So in this case, not only you cite from Mandura, but you also cite from people who are doing it within the context of your theory that you're using. Katakan if you use protection motivation theory, you highlight these authors, for example. Okay, I hope all of you follow me. Okay. All right. This one, Fahmi, are you here, Fahmi? I think this one has something to do uh, with ride hailing and also food delivery. For example, let's say you wanted to use TPB. You wanted to use TPB and then you ada variable nama intention to use kan. Okay, many people, they don't know how to define intention to use. How to define in chapter 1 in definition of terms or operational definition. You need to, if you see on the left, this one is too general, right? Is too general. Dia tak melambang, dia tak membawa apa-apa maksud. Okay, has been shown strong in predicting intention, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't tell you anything about the research that you are doing. Let's say you are doing on carpooling. What are the factors that influence people to use carpooling? Kan? Sebab sebelum ni kan macam ada app nama Tripda. Dia macam app that allows you to pull your car together. Kan? Katakan nak balik kampung, you can get other people to carpool, but at the same time you can generate income because those who wanted to carpool with you have to pay some money kan. I think but Trikda ni went into bankrupt. Last time we have this kind of app in Malaysia like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so this is the right definition on the right. Okay, can you read here? A person's intention to join or offer a ride as a passenger driver via a carpooling platform that is in line with the TPB, for example. Barulah dia fit dengan konteks tersebut. Bukanlah setakat intention to use something or to perform a specific behavior. Ayat tu tak lengkap. That kind of sentence is not complete and does not refer to the exact topic that you are doing for your PhD. Okay, inilah each azan. Those of you who do TPB, inilah the each azan. Don't forget to cite my work when you use the model. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close this. Ini just selingan sahaja so that you can understand. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can you follow me? Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go this very fast sebab nanti tak ada Q&A sebab kita habis pukul 1 and I ada 15 minit saja lagi before I'm sure you're going to ask me a barrage of questions. Alright, don't worry, this session is recorded. This session is recorded. Okay, later on, Dr. Hafiz will share the link. So when you wanted to write your questionnaire, it has to be short, simple, and straight to the point. Kan? Tak perlu berjela-jela, tak perlu double barrel questions. Contohlah, for example, kan? I am feeling happy and delightful, kan? Ataupun I feel enjoy and energetic, kan? Macam mana kalau respondent tu dia energetic, kan? Tapi dia tak enjoy, faham tak? Ataupun maybe, dia rasa enjoy, tapi dia rasa lemah, for example. So try to avoid double barrel questions because sometimes when you use the word and then you have two attributes, well, apa kata kalau satu ada, satu tak ada, kan? That will create confusion among the respondents to answer. Okay, macam ni lah. This soft drink is tasty and refreshing. Kan? Contohlah, dia tasty tapi tak refreshing. Macam mana tu? Kan? Macam kopi kan? Kopi refreshing sebab ada caffeine. Tapi dia pahit kan? Tak adalah tasty kan? So, macam mana respondent answer? So, try to avoid double barrel questions. Okay, clear and ambiguous. Sometimes, For example, how many months do you shop in department store? Never, occasionally, sometimes. Okay, katakanlah respondent A, bagi dia occasionally itu sekali je seminggu kan, atau sekali sebulan. Tetapi untuk respondent B, occasionally itu 5 kali pun dianggap sebagai occasional. You understand me? So how many times can you say that it's occasional? So maybe if you do something like this, it's much more clear and less confusing, right? 1 or 2 times, 3 or 4 times, more than 4 times. Okay. Okay, clear Okay, provide clear instruction. This like what I showed to you earlier in the example that I showed to you about online learning. When I wanted to do online learning, I give you example. You need to identify your platform. What kind of platform do you use? Google Meet, Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, and then the question must be relevant to the platform that you are using. Sama juga, katakanlah you nak buat study among apps, katakanlah among ways, katakan. So when you wanted your respondent to answer the question, you must provide instruction. All your answers should be related to your experience in using Waze. Faham tak? Bukan Google Maps, bukan Facebook, TikTok. Faham tak? So that the respondent will answer your questions much more accurately. Okay. And then avoid double negative. Soalan double negative tu means that it's quite complicated. For example, I do not feel tired and bored at the workplace. Okay, sometimes it can be, how to say, bila ada perkataan negatif ni, sometimes the negative wording ni sometimes can, you know, can affect in terms of bias. Avoid, when talk about bias, see the biasing questions. Sometimes we have our own bias, kan? Contoh macam Russia and Ukraine, kan? When you talk about Americans, those people on the West, they always feel that, oh, America is doing the best. But people on the other side, they feel that actually NATO is actually threatening Russia because Russia is actually being provoked. So that is just example, political example. For example, Malaysians, we have so many bad prejudice against migrants, because some of these migrants are actually refugees. Refugees Rohingya, refugees from war-torn countries, most likely Rohingyas. Okay, we always treat them as, in Malay they call it party kan, bukannya party ayam pendatang asing tanpa izin, or illegal immigrants. But in actually, they are actually, for example, they are actually refugees. So, so by having this prejudice, kan, sebagai contoh lah, kalau you tengok TV3 apa, 999, kan, rasa kesian because some of those, some of those so-called illegal immigrants, they are actually refugees, kan, and they were the victims of police brutality. So, for example, you wrote here, immigrant workers from country X should be monitored since many of them were involved in criminal activities. These are some sort of a bias statement, all right? All right, and then do you agree with the following statement? If it is quite biased, patriotic Malaysians should buy imported cars, although that would put local labour out of work. This is quite biased. Sebab you letak alasan di bawah ni, faham tak? When you try to put your own justification, your own opinion, it will become biased. You should be straightforward. Malaysians should buy imported cars. Malaysians should buy national cars, for example. Tak perlu kat belakang tu ada because blah 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 blah. Okay, and this one I think is much more suitable for qualitative study, because in qualitative you might want to know who, what, when, where, why. Okay, this one is for qualitative. I'm not going to detail too much. And then straightforward, become straightforward. For example, the distribution of the product is adequate. Okay, sometimes people don't understand what does it mean by distribution adequate. Okay, sometimes people don't understand. Why just don't make it more simpler? The products are readily available when I want to buy them. Barulah orang boleh faham. Okay, avoid overuse of missing categorical item. So sometimes you use a lot of category, okay? You use a category ataupun too little number of categories. Okay, for example, master PhD. Not many people out there continue to postgrad. So why not just combine this into postgrad? Okay, and then single married, it can be incorrect. You have maybe people who are single, married, and widowed. Okay, so this one is usually available in the demographic section. Next, this one is also related with complex and simplicity. You're talking about difficult questions. Okay, this one is too subjective, so you give options. You give option in terms of something that is quantifiable. I think this question is asked especially for those who are doing qualitative studies. Okay. All right. Avoid implicit alternative. It means that, for example, I like to fly when traveling short distances. Okay, why not? I like to fly when traveling short distances rather than driving. All right. And then avoid implicit assumption. Okay. Question should not be worded so that the answer is dependent upon implicit assumption about what will happen as a consequence. Okay, so I am in favor of a balanced budget, or I am in favor of a balanced budget. Sebenarnya ini correct I'm sorry, there's a typo here. This should be correct, and bawah tu should be incorrect Okay, there's a typo over there. Sorry, this one. This one should be green This one should be green. The below should be red. Incorrect. Okay. It should not be implied by other consequence. This one would be more confusing. This one is much more confusing because why if that person does not have any issue with personal income tax? Then actually this one make the sentence much more complicated because that your respondent has nothing to do with personal income tax, for example. All right, so when you have all your questionnaire ready, like the PowerPoint that I showed you earlier, it's time for you to do phase validity. Something like this is under construct validity. You have to refer to academic experts, preferably those with a PhD, or perhaps a professor, much more better with experience in examining thesis. Okay, and those who have published in reputable journals. So you prepare a questionnaire validation form. Okay, do not give the exact questionnaire that you plan to give to your respondent, where you wanted to give this validation form to the professors. No, because kenapa? Because you need to show your framework, source of instruments, and the definition for the variables. All right. So because I have a situation whereby the student show me the form, ask me to validate the questionnaire. So I corrected the sentences, everything. And in the next few months, she went into DRP. When she went into DRP, the framework somehow doesn't look appropriate. And we had to give her a major correction. Because the source of the instruments were not adapted. Okay, so but the student is actually doing good effort in what I call in her journey for DRP. So she has to retune her framework because the validity experts have no access to the framework. So when you are when you wanted to check and validate your items, you need to do something like this. Okay, the original format of this form was adapted from UTM actually, from University Technology Malaysia. Okay, so it is advisable for you to follow this format. Okay, at the left, at the most left column, you need to highlight the construct. Construct apa you gunakan? Like me, myself, individual market orientation. Individual market orientation has 3 dimensions. So I highlight the first dimension over here inside a bracket, information dissemination. Okay, and then I highlight the name of the proponent of those who develop the measurement. Okay, and then I highlight the scales that were used in the measurement according to the Likert scale, fixed to the corresponding Likert scale. And this is most students they forgot to do. They need to highlight what are the operational definition of the variable that you are highlighting here. So you need to mention employees market-oriented behaviors pertaining to dissemination of customer knowledge. And then you need to mention whether are you adopting it, how extensive do you modify the items. So I mentioned here the scale items are modified from the I-Marco scale from Schlosser McNaughton. If the validator wants to know more, he or she has to refer to Appendix 1 for original items. All right, and then I put here the instruction that you want to put in your questionnaire, and you give room. Nampak tak? Ada room. One is for the validator to write his comments. Okay, the second one here is to assess objectively whether to maintain the item as it is, to refine the item or revise the wording, ataupun if the item does not appear to be appropriate within the context of the study, remove the item. So this is actually the response from Prof. Ramaya. I emailed to him and, he is so, baguslah dia. He scanned my form and he answered using hard copy and he scanned and he emailed back to me. So these were his replies. Okay, so he take here, and he say, what is MO? Maybe this term he does not, MD he does not understand. Okay, so this is just example how you wanted to validate. Make sure you give room for your expert validator to comment to comment. Ada juga orang yang propose Google Form but it depends Google Form you need to also provide some sort of room to comment, allow the expert some room to comment. But the best way is to give face to face, or at least to meet up with the expert individually. That is highly recommended. Okay, most people they know about pilot test, but not many know about pre-testing. So what's the difference between pilot test and pre-testing? Okay, pre-testing is for you to identify if there are any problems in the language, the tone, the structure, the design of the questionnaire. Are you using obscure terminology, phrases that can be, confusing? People may find it unfamiliar, ambiguous. Okay, so when people get confused, they cannot answer properly. When they cannot answer properly, that can hurt your response rate and your data quality. Okay? You don't want to cry because you have so many cross-loading when you run your factor analysis. You cannot run your CFA. Your cross-loading is everywhere. Your reliability is very low. All this because of the language and the item that you use in your questionnaire. Okay, so that's very important. Pre-testing is different from pilot test. Is that you are not checking the reliability, but you are doing some sort of a short interview with any person that resembles the potential respondent that you are going to distribute later on. It means that you only engage with a few people, like 3 to 5 people. You show the questionnaire, you ask them to read, you ask them to, you ask them, you want their feedback in terms of clarity. Can they understand or not? And you measure how long they answer the questionnaire. You need to observe. Does it take around 5 minutes? Is it too short? Is it too long? Is it like 20, 30 minutes? If 20, 30 minutes, then most likely people will get fatigue. Fatigue maksudnya penat. When they are fatigued, they are most likely tembak. They will answer questions not accurately because they wanted to complete it as soon as possible. Okay, after you do your pre-test, only then you will have to do your post-test. Oh, it's already 12 o'clock noon. Okay, I'm gonna speed up. So pilot test, as we know, is like you give to around 30, 50. Okay, some supervisors says 100. Okay, it's up to your supervisor to depend because some of them wants to write DFA using pilot, and maybe the final study they wanted to use PLS or MOS. The complete data will be run using confirmatory factor analysis. Okay, that one is a discussion that you have to undertake with your supervisor. So pilot test, you wanted to look at the reliability, okay, basically in terms of the extent of non-response. So pilot test is more quantitative rather than pre-test. All right, so these are just the differences between pre-test and pilot test. Okay, like an analogy, in a theater, for example, in a theater is like you wanted to fit on dress costume. Boleh masuk tak kan? All those costume in the actors. Can they fit the actors? Okay, that is pre-test. Okay, for pilot test, it's like the actors are having rehearsal. Okay, when the clothes nicely fit with the author's physical and body attributes, then there will be no problem. The only thing to do is rehearsal. So pilot test is like a rehearsal in a theater. All right, organizing the questionnaire. Um, I'm gonna set the timer. Nanti tak ada Q&A pula ya. I'm gonna set this timer. Okay, a proper cover title. What is the study all about? Why is the study being conducted? You need to be transparent, because cover letter is like an invitation. Okay, you nak suruh orang jawab questionnaire you. You need to have a proper wording, proper invitation, comforting sentences that make those who read the cover letter, they makes them feel comfortable. Okay, reassuring for them to involve in your study. All right, you need to promise for anonymity, confidentiality. Kalau katakan you use a longitudinal study, then it's a different study. Longitudinal study means you do your study at T1 and T2, period 1 and period 2, meaning that you will be seeing the same respondents at a later point of time. So in that case, you need to assure that during time 1 and during time 2, when you obtain the contact information of the respondent, you need to promise that, of course, you obtain their contact number, but then their identity will remain anonymous. The data will not be identified to that person in any way. So that will provide some assurance to the respondent. And don't forget to thank the respondent. And if you have some money, why not provide some vouchers, kan? Maybe tengoklah ada Lazada ke Shopee voucher ke, I don't know, RM5. Let's say if you have 200 respondents, taraf 5, maybe, RM1,000, your own investment, kan? For those of you who are sponsored, meaning that if you are lecturers, I'm sure you are under sponsor of JPA, right? Under UiTM. They give you like 900, right? 900 per month. I'm not sure about other universities. So like me myself, when I do my PhD, I receive my monthly allowance 900. So I save that money, and I use that money to give honorarium or gift to my respondent, so that they are motivated. They are motivated to respond. And my samples during PhD was 600 plus. So you just imagine how much I spend, uh, you know, just to for honorarium to give gifts to the respondents, but that's not compulsory. That's not compulsory. It depends. It depends. But usually people are more motivated, right? If they are given, they are given freebies, they are given vouchers. Okay. So, and then include simple instruction. Like I mentioned earlier, don't forget to tell how to mark the answers, okay? And provide Likert scale indicators. For example, in form, where's my Google form? Where's my Google form? This one. Okay. All right. In Google form, usually, okay, they do not tell you when you do like a scale, nampak tak? Google Form only allows you to do the anchor, the polarized anchor, the highest and the lowest, right? Google Form doesn't give you the exact Likert for this, especially when you choose this kind of option. So you need to insert this one. You need to insert the indicators for each of the Likert scale measures over here. And you need to give a proper instruction. Please indicate your agreement or disagreement to the statement by ticking, actually not by ticking, actually by clicking the appropriate number using the scale provided. So this has to be done if you are using Google Form. Okay. So katakan you masuk next section, you also have to provide. You don't expect the respondent to scroll up every time he or she wanted to answer this. So provide these measures each time you enter into a new section. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Okay, put most information up front. This is depends on the organization of your measures and your constructs. Okay, ada yang cakap demografi letak depan, ada cakap kat belakang. So actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It depends. You can put it in front and you can also put it in the back. Okay, but for those you think that people who easily get fatigued, okay, you may want to consider to put the demographic behind. Because maybe the respondent will take quite some time to fill up this form, and then the most important one will be filled up at a later stage. So perhaps you may put this at the back or at the end of the survey, but no problem of putting it in the front of the survey. All right. Okay, this one is much more towards qualitative, so we skip on this one. Okay, and yep, you group your similar questions together. This will help the respondents to relate one question to another question, and start with questions that are non-threatening, non-sensitive. So don't ever offer questions that are threatening and sensitive. Yeah, as we know, we have to go through research ethics committee. I'm sure that these people will also check for this type of questions. Okay, minimize open-ended questions. This one also I may skip because you are not doing qualitative study. Yeah? Okay, for cover letter, you need to check with DPPS. Make sure you put the logo of your university. You look at the structure of the sentences. No, malu lah kalau ada typo, right? Please avoid any typos. You may consider using booklet form. Okay, check for paper print quality. All right. Instead of a PhD or master student, kan? Why not you type that PhD or MSc candidate ataupun graduate research assistant. Nampak tak? Okay, because macam undergrad lah kalau kata student, type that PhD MSc candidate. Alright? The better kalau if you are attached to a certain, you are attached to your supervisor as a GRA, type that graduate research assistant. Okay, and for general formatting, you need to format the questionnaire properly. The font size should not be too small. Either use Arial or Times Roman. Avoid other fancy fonts, okay? And use bold for only important instruction. Never use capital letters. Use italicized fonts for translations. Don't please avoid being too cramped, and please numbering. Numbering will allow the respondents to refer back to you in order for that person to clarify. So can pinpoint which section that he or she needs clarification. That can be easily pointed out. And as usual, in cover letter, don't forget to thank the respondent. And if you have some money, you can provide some reward if you have some funding. So what to do when questionnaire is not completed? Give some extension. Okay, be nice, be courteous. Do not coerce. Jangan paksa dia untuk hantar semula. If your question is not written on the spot, indicate where and how to send the completed survey. Okay, if you mail the questionnaire, do not provide untuk masukkan the stamp, enclose the stamp and pre-address the envelope. Tak perlulah dia nak menulis alamat you semula. You prepare an envelope, tampal stamp and you write your address so that the respondent can return back to you without having to write anything except for answering your survey. Okay. Okay, this is another technique that you can use if, let's say, you have an enumerator or if your respondent cannot answer on the spot, meaning that uh, meaning that you give time for your respondent to answer. You can the diary, perhaps in Excel, okay? In Excel. So you need to keep track of who your responses are because your respondents are keeping your questionnaire. If you cannot keep up with your respondents, it's just like bye-bye, your respondents gone missing. So you have no idea to whom you have distributed your questionnaire to. So you create your own diary. Kalau tak gunakan pencil and paper, you use Excel. You put all these details in, right? Kenapa ada date of distributed and collected class? Kenapa? Story students. Why do you need to have this? You pernah dengar tak? Okay, kadang-kadang in Viva, they ask you, you buat tak late response bias? You baca Armstrong, Uh, Armstrong and Overton, Armstrong and Overton, something like that. Okay, you read this late response bias, you need to have this information because examiners, they wanted to check for bias. Then they will ask you, have you performed a late response bias test? Okay, late response bias means that you wanted to check whether is there any differences between the data for those who submit early and those who replied late. You understand me? So is there any difference or not when you run the t-test? When you run the t-test, is there any significant difference or not? If there are differences, that is an issue of bias. That is an issue of bias. So that's why you need to have a diary. You need to really highlight the date of distribution, the date of collected, and status there, late or early or late. Dekat sinilah nanti, this is where you put in your SPSS, category 1, katakan early, category 1, late, category 2. Okay, and then you run t-test for your variables to make sure that there is no significant differences of the measures, of the composite measure for the variables that you are testing. This is what we call as response bias. Response bias. Semua orang boleh follow ke? Yuhu! Ding dong. Okay. Elaborate more. How to elaborate more? Okay, elaborate more means for every questionnaire that you distribute, you need to mention because in your cover letter, you need to scribble something. If you print the questionnaire, you need to write something like this, kan? You need to put some coding, 0001, right? Kalau second respondent, 0002, betul tak? Okay, so in your questionnaire booklet, you need to highlight the date. Katakanlah the date you distribute nanti 1 July 2022. Okay, so when the respondents give back the questionnaire, you highlight over there. Katakan 22/7. Kan? Nampak tak? So you have to define yourself. What does it mean by early? What does it mean by late? Faham tak? Biasanya early tu is within 2 weeks. Late tu is more than 2 weeks or perhaps a month. Contoh ni saja contoh perhaps a month Early tu katakan less than 1 month. Late less than 1 month. Late tu means more than 1 month. Boleh faham? You categorize, you yourself categorize. You discuss with your supervisor. What is the normal categorization of a response that is considered late or early? Usually for me, it's around 1 month. 1 month is early, more than 1 month is late. Okay, so when you wanted to key in SPSS, you need to highlight in SPSS whether is it early or is it late. This is not in your questionnaire. Your respondent tak bagi tahu you. It's not your job of your respondent to tell you whether their responses are early or late. Okay, it is you yourself who determine whether that responses are they early or are they late. Boleh faham? Does that solve your query on this? Okay, so you yourself jot down in your questionnaire. Kan? Katakan you need to code your respondent, you need to give a proper coding. Katakanlah respondent number 37. Highlight that number 37. Bila you distribute, kan? Bila you collect, distribute like I mentioned, katakan 17 2022. Katakan you collect very late, kan? 31st of uh, October 2022. So you yourself categorize this 0037 as late. So you highlight here ID, katakan IDU one apa tadi? 0037. Okay, dekat sini you type date distribution 17/2022, date collected 31st October. So you classify as late. These are the things that you key in as SPSS on your own. Yang ni tak perlu date ni. The only thing is the status, the response. Is it early or is it late? In which each of these response is tied up to the ID. So that's why having an ID is important. Sebab dalam SPSS ada ID number kat sebelah kiri kan, but that is not your ID. Because if you remove that data, then your ID will be jumbled up. You understand me? You cannot detect the questionnaire in which if there might be some error that you need to rectify, you can no longer trace your questionnaire because your ID is not organized. So for every questionnaire that you distribute, assign the ID. I ulang balik, assign an ID. You use this. Okay, ni tak semestinya kena ada. Kalau you buat experimental, you ada C and T. C itu control, T itu treatment. Control and treatment groups. But if you are not doing experimental research, just number sahaja cukup. Kan? Orang yang ke 127, for example. So you know, kan? When you type in SPSS, katakanlah you salah key in, you know where to revert. Kan? You know where to revert the paper-based questionnaire. If you don't write anything here, trust me, you will be crying. You don't know how to revert back to your questionnaire. If you did some typo error when you key in wrongly, that will be very problematic. So I hope you can take note of this. I hope you can take note of this. All right. For ethical consideration, we have REC. Tolong REC. Please do not delay going into REC because I don't think you can go into defense without having to go through REC, Research Ethics Committee. Okay, these are some of other important issues. Okay, I don't know whether I want to elaborate on this or not because, you know, this one, I think I can share with you later in terms of the content. Okay, lastly, I want you to look at this framework. Okay, actually, I don't want to assign any names. I don't want to assign. I don't want to refer these frameworks to any previous students because I do not want to create a misunderstanding, especially with their supervisors. Because for me, we learn through mistakes. Okay, we learn through mistakes, and we should never be what we call that offended when people are actually highlighting the mistake because it is a part and parcel of a learning process. If I don't highlight this, then how can I share the best practices to future PhD candidates? Am I? So I'm not going to associate this with any students because some of them were the example of previous students who, uh, who were given major correction in their PhD. So my intention is to help rather than condemning or belittling their work. I did not intend in any way in condemning or belittling their work. So perhaps all of us can think positively because as an examiners, most examiners, you know, you always see like them attacking you, right? No, actually, we are trying to improve from your mistakes. For example, this one, the title is False Advertising on Consumer Online Purchase Behavior, the Mediating Effects of E-Word of Mouth. All right, so in this research, the panels are not sure. The IVD is the false advertising. The construct are not readily available in the literature. So these are the primary concern. Okay, and the demographic, when you put as a moderator, are there ample justification? Because demographic, they can be nominal, they can be categorical. And how can you analyze and how is that possible for this variable to become a moderator? Although moderator, yes, you can use a yes or no categorical, but then were there sufficient number of research to justify the positioning of demographic as a moderator? All right, and then there needs to be an indication of direction. When you use SEM, there needs to be direction. Is it what? Is it negative? Is it positive? Okay, there needs to be a direction. Okay, is it strengthening? Is it weakening? All right, and then the word behavior. Does behavior, can be measured, or perhaps intention itself can be a proxy to behavior. This can be a contention as well. Okay, because behavior is very difficult to explore. And then behavior, that's why most experts, they will argue behavior should be measured after all of these are measured at a certain period of time. Katakan you measure all these variables in June or May. You cannot measure behavior at the same time because this one should precede this one. The independent variable should come way before the dependent variable, which should be conducted at another subsequent time period. Do you understand me? So perhaps maybe intention is more suitable. Okay, now we look at perceived justice in telecommunications services sector. Okay, the candidate tells that the better the customers will be treated, the better the outcome is for the telecommunication service provider. But then forgot, is switching intention, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Okay, let's say the student, let's say she justified, right? Distributive helps to improvise the outcome. But then she forgot. The dependent variable is switching. It means that it's a bad thing. Okay, it's a bad thing, okay, because if it's a good thing, you wanted to stay, you are satisfied, and you wanted to stay what we call as the intention to remain in the organization or organizational commitment. But then when switching, is actually you are not satisfied with how you were treated. So explanation is something that you need to be carefully looking at. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, okay, is it exact that you need to do behavior? Can you really measure behavior? Can you put in intention and behavior in a single time frame? Uh, so most experts recommend that these two needs to be separated when you are collecting the data. Okay, this has to be longitudinal, which can be tough, which can be very difficult to materialize because you need to recontact the person who in which you have established your connection in the first phase. Okay, but somehow you can justify. Can although TPB says that there needs to be behavior, you can justify. You can justify that intention is close proximity to actual behavior, according to researchers. Provide citation. Okay, it doesn't mean that you need to have behavior. You can just clarify. Intention is a close, what I call that, is in close proximity in reflecting the actual behavior and provide clear justification and citation. What can you find in this framework? What do you think is something that is very, very glaring? Students, this one is from non-UIT. I think it's from other university. A professor told me this. So it was funny actually. How can the person pass his viva or her viva? Okay, can gender change, students? Cannot. Gender cannot be changed. How can a brain image influence a gender? So, well, with logical thinking, you know that this framework is very, very way off the mark because nothing can change gender. Even if you put education, how can the brain image change your education, right? So you need to really, really, really think logically of how you wanted to shape your framework. Demographics cannot be put as a mediator. You can never put your demographic as a mediator. That will become funny, something like this. All right, and then unit of analysis. Sometimes people make blunder when they put different unit of analysis into the framework. My soul feels throat, so allow me to to eat some lozenges. So please excuse me for a while. Okay. So let's see, for example, the moderating role of LOC, locus of control, on the link between emotional intelligence and entrepreneurial success. EI is an individual level construct. Soalannya berbunyi I. Okay. But the dependent variable is an organizational level construct, meaning that the unit of analysis is actually organization, companies, firms. So the questionnaire would be we, our, am I right? Our company. So how different between these two words are? A lot of different, right? The unit of analysis are different. So somehow, somehow this needs to be, there needs to be rectification. In actuality, it should be entrepreneurial orientation rather than entrepreneurial success, for example. Yeah? The operationalization should be clear in terms of the dependent variable. Okay, this one not actually from thesis, but from a journal article of a predatory journal. So that's why you need to look at the quality of the journal. Some journal they publish framework, which I think quite rubbish. Okay, it goes something like this. How can self-efficacy affect company performance? Do you know that self-efficacy is an individual trait, it's a personality trait, and firm performance is not people. This is actually a company. We're talking about company. How can a personality can affect the whole outcome of the company? Do you understand me? So the individual level construct may not fit well into this model. Okay, because this is an individual level construct. This is an organizational level construct. Kan, sama juga macam stress. How can one person punya stress boleh affect the whole company performance? You understand me? So you cannot mix. When you have something like this, you cannot sekali you mix individual level construct and organizational level construct. Because like I mentioned earlier, individual level construct soalan ni berbunyi dengan I atau you. Yeah? For organizational level construct is about we, is about our our company. So there is a serious mismatch between these two unit of analysis. All right. This is just an imaginary framework. Okay. Can you follow me, students?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, some students, they think that by putting more variables, the more variables that you put, the more complex your research model is, the more novelty that you will bring in to your PhD. And you will think that your examiner will be impressed with you. But in many cases, if you are not careful, you may have the problem of redundancy. Mana kata redundancy? Redundancy, and this will lead to discriminant validity issue. Apa maksud discriminant validity? Maksud dia kat sini, you put the word creativity and you put the word innovativeness. Aren't these two things are quite the same? Maybe the items tu pun berbunyi dia hampir sama. Faham tak? So, when you are proposing two or three variables in which the items are closely related to each other, have the same meaning with each other, are very close or very similar in terms of the definition, then you are going to have trouble when you run your validity analysis. Tak kisahlah EFA ke CFA ke, the loadings will be the same. And when you run correlation, the correlation will go to 0.9 because basically they are measuring the same measures. Okay? The same measures. So what happened is that sooner or later you will drop this one. Habis terkubur semua hypothesis you kan. You create a hypothesis for this creativity and suddenly is actually a part of this innovativeness construct. And hence, your model lose some value. Okay. So be careful on that. Okay, doing PhD is not about having a complex model. It's not about putting as much variable as you want to. No. It's about adding value to an existing research model so that you can contribute to the literature. Okay. All right. And then knowledge innovation among academicians. For example, the candidate says that, okay, I use TPB, but then where is subjective norm? In order for a TPB to be the underpinning theory, kenalah ada element subjective norm, kan? Alright, this one may reflect attitude from the ease of use. These are closely related to attitude. It is okay. Alright, this one is okay. Kalau tengok pun self-efficacy pun tak ada kat sini. There is no self-efficacy because self-efficacy related to the element of PBC. But PBC may also be reflected here, meaning that the confidence of that person using the is reflected through PEOU perhaps. But the most glaring is the SN, subjective norm or social norm is missing. And then the name of the variable itself. For example, they use here knowledge management database. Okay, so this is practically a noun, which doesn't bring any meaning. Okay, it's like you're putting management or you're putting a brand as moderator. Okay, how you wanted to measure brand? Are you talking about different brands? Can it be measured through continuous like a scale? That's the question. You cannot just name your variable to your whim and to your fancies. You need to make sure the name of the variables exists in previous literature. All right. Same as this one, probably innovation creativity has what? Has redundant meaning, kan? And then probably too many underlying theories. This can also be an issue. Boleh kalau ada 2 and 3, jangan sampai 6, 7 2 and 3 is fine 2 and 3 theories, underlying theories are actually fine. Thank you for the question. All right. Some students like to name their variables, like I mentioned, to their whim and fancies. IR 4.0 competencies. Do this variable establish in the literature? Can have other researchers used this variable name in quantitative research? Have this been proven before? Are there any samples provided? And then the DV, graduate work readiness toward IR 4.0 work environment. I think it's too lengthy. And like I mentioned earlier, is there any fundamental studies or previous study that incorporated this kind of name into the variable? There must be justification evidence based on past literature on the use of the variable names. You cannot create your own variable from scratch. You need to refer previous papers, previous journal articles. All right, I think this is all my presentation. It's already 12:40, and I would like to thank these professors for their input, in which that many of their ideas are being adapted into this presentation. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Is there any? Let's open to Q&A session. Kathy, I hope that I have answer your question, you can use 2 or 3 grounded theories, okay? As long as the variables, the phenomenon that you are explaining are reflected through the framework. All right? Okay, students. Maybe I know you're hungry. If you have any questions, I may be happy to solve your problem for you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
I'm Marha Abdul from UiTM Cawangan Terengganu Campus Dumon.
Okay.
Do we our IV tu must be based on concrete past theories ke ataupun we could adapt and adopt from past literatures? Contoh, I tak adalah based on theories macam UTAP ke TRA ke TPB ke semua tu. Tapi I'm doing on social media content. Jadinya tak ada lagi teori on social media content tu. So,
Okay,
adakah kukuh?
social media, actually, there are many theories that are related to social theory. For example, is UGC.
Sorry?
For example, use and gratification theory, social
Yes.
identity theory.
I've heard of that.
There are a lot of theories. Doesn't mean that there needs to be the word. If let's say use and gratification theory, doesn't
Yes.
mean that there needs to be the word gratification in the variable. No, it is just an assumption. Okay, it is just an assumption. Okay, let me show you an example.
All right.
Wait.
So I've heard of user gratification theory too.
Actually, I'm on MC today, but kejap Kejap. Okay, theories, you have so many theories, and I would like to share this website where you can have a look at the theories, whether are those theories relevant or not. Okay, wait for 1 minute. I try to find the URL.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
where is it? Research. If you are doing on technology, why not you look? Okay, why not you go here? Can you look at the chat box? I have shared over there. Okay, there are so many theories out there. It's just that how would you like to fit into those theories? Okay, how would you like to fit into those theories?
Okay. So kita
Right.
adapt and adopt yang mana sesuai lah kan?
Yes.
Alright, okay.
Okay. I wanted to. May I ask? Do you have any support group? Support group means, I mean, like as a PhD student, you cannot walk alone. You cannot do this alone.
Actually, I'm currently in my second semester of DBA.
Oh, DBA, I see.
So we have our classmates lah. Itulah support group kami.
I see. Okay,
7 of us.
Okay. It's good for you to join ResearchGate. Do you know ResearchGate?
Yes. Okay. Yes, I've joined.
You can look at question. They have a section here whereby usually researchers and PhD candidates, they ask questions over here, can. And sometimes I do also ask questions. I also answer other people's questions, and can monitor, and you can perhaps find experts to validate your content from, from academics all around the world in ResearchGate. In ResearchGate, and then you can go also to Quora. Quora academic, for example. Quora.
Because I'm doing on engagement instead of adoption.
Yes. Okay.
So tak boleh guna UTAP semua tu lah.
Yes, doesn't mean that if you are doing on technology, you need to do UTAP. Actually, you can use so many theories. So many theories. For example, for this, I'm just wanted to motivate you. If you feel sometimes you don't have any credible sources. Okay, in Quora they have this PhD advice hub. So many, not say groups, so many question and answer, what call it? Answer information. If you have any more questions, okay, and also ResearchGate. You can also see my papers in ResearchGate. Okay, for example, many of my papers I highlight the theory. When we talk about framework, we need to mention what is the underpinning theory. What is the underpinning theory of that kind of research? So in any research, there must be an underpinning theory. You cannot propose something without underpinning theory. And the name of the underpinning theory should sama. Doesn't mean that the name of the underpinning theory should be the same name as your variable. Okay, because for different contexts, you may refer to different underpinning theories.
I see.
Okay, so when you look at my papers over here, you can look, for example, my paper published in Springer, in Emerald, for example, here in Emerald. Okay, you can have a look. Okay, whatever it is, in my what call it? In my abstract, and in my paper, I always highlight, the theory that I'm using, because I also did research in social media, using social media. Okay, so the name of the variable does not necessarily reflect the name of the variable. I may also show you my previous articles. Wait for a moment. For example, my article on social media. For example, I work together with...
UGC tu user generated content kan, Doktor kan?
Yes, betul. User generated content. The impact of UGC source credibility on word of mouth and purchase intention.
Okay.
Okay, so for example, I'm using this theory, called social identity theory by Tashfeld and Turner. Okay, there must be an explanation on the theory. Okay, so, but ada tak perkataan social identity in my framework? Tak ada kan? Because social identity tells you about the phenomenon of this whole research. Because social identity theory, it tells that birds of the same feather flock together. Maksudnya orang yang sama perangai dia atau sama hobi, sama favorite, they will group together, they will stick together. So that is why there is the term source homophily, meaning that how do you feel that people actually has the same habit as you. So when you think that other people has the same habit as you tend to trust that influencer, you have a good attitude towards that influencer or YouTuber, and you will spread good word of mouth, and perhaps you wanted to buy that product that is being promoted by the influencer, for example. So the what I call that? The theory is actually social identity theory, right? But there is no such thing as social identity, right? Okay. So the theory is something that guides your research rather than tells you what is the name of the independent variable.
Okay, I think I understand now. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Doktor.
Okay, welcome. Sama juga macam satu recent article that I published. Where is it? Where is it? This is my last paper from my PhD. Okay, I published 10 papers for my since I did my PhD, and 3 of them were published in credible journals, like those in Emerald and also Springer. This one is Springer. Okay, this one has nothing to do in my PhD. It has nothing to do with this theory. But then when I play around with the data, and I found there is some sort of connection in terms of what we call as something that is quite different, which is working experience. Okay, so this is something that I relate with another theory called sense making theory. So by using sense making theory, okay, I can provide some underpinning, what call it, underpinning reasoning why work experience can actually moderate or provide an interaction effects on the other interaction effects of culture on work performance, for example, in which that this was not actually proposed in my thesis, but from the analysis of existing data, I can produce another model. Okay, so when you do your PhD, you try to target not only like one or two papers, try to target more, but not slicing by too much. Yeah, it's just that that gives you more experience, and perhaps it can also, help you to understand that, theories can take in many different forms. When I submit this paper, the reviewers criticize me on my theory, so I have to defend. For example, here, social cognitive theory, sense making theory. I'm not using sense making theory in my thesis, but in order for me to build this framework about work experience, I need to relate with this sense making theory so that my underpinning theory will be relevant, will justify my framework. Okay, so in many research, you need to understand that underpinning theory is very important. Walaupun sangat simple, the framework is simple, but the explanation needs to be solid. The explanation, the validity process, what you call that, uh, how you present your findings. Okay, so theory tu, please, you need to make sure the theory is telling the phenomenon that you are investigating. Okay, tells you the phenomenon. There are lots of theories out there. Lots of theories kan, macam I tunjuk share tadi in my chat box. Research IS theory kan. There are lots of theories. It's just how are you going to ensure that the theory is related to the model that you are presenting. Kan? So janganlah stick for the
Okay.
TPB kan. And then your
Okay.
examiner will ask you what's the view about TPB. Okay,
Yes.
when we talk about social media, tak boleh lari lah kebanyakannya use and gratification theory, okay, and also social identity theory. When we talk about motivation, ni tak boleh lari daripada, for example, uh, self-determination theory. Self-determination theory, we're talking about locus of control. Are you doing something because of inner motivation or external motivation? That's just an example. So you really need to know more. So when you do your PhD, you are the master of your own knowledge. You may know you know everything that perhaps your supervisor doesn't know. Ah, so that that can distinguish you. That tells you that you are worthy of the PhD that you are graduating. So from Miss, okay, to which should I read? Banyak pula soalan ni. Okay, Aini, for master level, when we adopt and adapt, does any improvisation needed? If our study using different medium of analysis, okay, so for this question, do you need improvisation needed to our framework? A framework that is suitable for your masters is something that adds value to the current framework that people are using. So avoid duplicating or replicating the same model that have been used by other researchers. Kan? Contoh macam TPB lah atau TAM. Takkan you nak gunakan PEOU, perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, social norms, apa lagi? Facilitating conditions. Tu je, 4 je kan, that represents TAM. You wanted to look at other angles. You wanted to look at other variables that might provide some sort of intervention and interaction. Okay, we call it mediating. Mediating tu is an issue of how, meaning how does it mediate, kan? Is there any indirect effect? Ada tak variable yang duduk kat tengah-tengah? So in order to understand that, you need to know whether is there any inconsistency of previous findings. Kan, kalau sebelum ni previous finding Asyik cakap non-significant. Perhaps is there any variable that might intervene. Intervene tu maksudnya terselit dekat tengah-tengah. That perhaps through this variable, the sequential effect can be achieved. Maksudnya you can achieve significance to that variable if you have an intervention variable in the middle of the two relationships. That might justify mediation. Okay, so that's why you need to do a lot of study. Okay, your supervisor alone cannot tell you whether, okay, this study is acceptable. You know yourself what is the what is the limitation of the current study. That's why you need to do a lot of reading. When you do a lot of reading, jangan lupa menulis kan. Don't forget to write. Okay. So cara nak mudah bukan cara mudah. I mean, the best way for you to understand the limitation of existing study, because you want to have some form of novelty kan, contribution. When you search for articles, look for meta-analysis. Use keywords such as meta-analysis, systematic literature review, bibliometric analysis. Okay, those are actually articles that analyze the current situation of the knowledge of the discipline that you are doing. Okay, make sure it is being written by prominent researchers, published in good journals. Only then you can know. Usually there will be a section that highlight limitations and future research directions. So when you read journals, you need to look at the section. So you need to read the commentary of the author. Which area of this research that needs to be undertaking, that needs to be further, further study or further improvisation in terms of the model. What are the areas that are lacking? What are perhaps the most recent or interesting variable that you can add into your framework. Okay, so it's not your supervisor to tell you, it is you yourself who need to do an in-depth study, because for doing tak kisah masters or PhD, I'm sure that you need to really dig and dig, menggali, dig. What is not enough? What can be done in this area? Okay, as for unit of analysis, like I mentioned, it depends. If you are studying job performance, your analysis are employees, not customers. If you are doing marketing, your dependent variable is intention, loyalty. Your unit of analysis is actually your customers, bukan your firm, bukan your brand. It's not about the company themselves. It's not about the brand, but it's about the consumers. The consumers are the unit of analysis. In my case, I do marketing among employees. Jadi the employees, not consumers, are actually my unit of analysis. But if you do strategic marketing, contohnya macam, Porter Five Forces kan, Porter Five Forces, the more strategic entry, the barrier to entry kan, competitive intensity, those are actually firm level, what I call it, firm level unit of analysis. Pernah tak resource-based view? Resource-based view. When you do strategic management, strategic marketing, you apply this theory. They call it resource-based view by Barney, Barney, Barney. So this one is only applied to unit of organization as unit of analysis. When we talk about strategic management, strategic marketing. But kalau you buat consumer behavior, you tak boleh cakap, oh, I use RBV, RBV untuk justify purchase intention. The examiner will ask you, what is the relation of RBV and purchase intention? Because RBV is the theory that mentioned that a company's asset or strength, I mean like the company asset is bundled alongside the employees, the technology, the function, all those resembles useful resources for the company. That is RBV. Okay, so most studies on entrepreneurship, especially business level entrepreneurship, meaning that what I call that, risk taking. Okay, those are what we call as firm unit of analysis. Business success, not business success, business performance. Okay, uncertainty in environment, absorptive capacity, technology transfer. Those are not individual unit of analysis. Those are organization unit of analysis. So you tak boleh jumble up. You tak boleh jumble. Oh, term ni kena dengan RBV. Cannot. You cannot make it like a jigsaw puzzle, as you wish. You wanted to assemble your puzzle according to what you think. So you need to understand certain theory can only fit with certain unit of analysis. You just cannot mix and match to what you like. All right. So I hope that answer your question here. Okay, Miss. Number one, if I want to provide a filter question so that I will get my target respondents, do I need to provide sources for the filter question? Okay, Miss, I'm not clear. What do you mean by filter question? filter. Macam mana filter? Filter questions. Do I need your sources? What kind of sources? Is it authors? Okay, I move on to question number 2. Can I cite several sources of original paper that have used or developed instruments for each and every variables? Okay, you can source from different variable sources, macam I tunjuk tadi. Nampak tak ada Venkatesh dengan Viramutu kan? Katakanlah you nak buat on e-filing. Okay, Viramutu is doing e-filing, but then Viramutu is not the one who created the instruments. The one who created instruments was Venkatesh, kan? So you quote dua orang, Viramutu, blah blah blah, and Venkatesh dalam citation. But never adapt sampai 10 orang, 8 orang, 7 orang tak perlu. I think 2 or 3 is the maximum when you wanted to cite the sources of instruments. You tak perlu cite semua orang yang gunakan kerja Venkatesh, kan? That would be very lengthy. Only, I think 2 sources is just nice, 2 sources. If I want, number 3, if I want to exclude one variable from a theory with the justification that the variable is mostly not suitable, yes, you may, but you need to justify and prove. Is there any other research that have done the same? Okay, because there is this theory called protection motivation theory, in which some of the research, they drop one variable. Okay, ataupun consumption values theory. Consumption values theory is talking about enjoyment of using the service. Consumption values theory, maybe that epistemology punya variable is being dropped, for example. There must be a proper justification. This practice had been conducted by previous studies, such as blah, 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 due to restriction, due to ensure that the framework fits with the situation that you are doing. Faham tak? Yes, tetapi kena justified. You cannot pangkah, you cannot buang variable you sesuka hati. You need to have a strong references, strong citation. Have other researchers done the same? If yes, highlighted it. Make sure the work comes from reputable sources. Maksudnya, publication yang index dalam Scopus or WOS. Yes, actually the article I submit in 2018-19, 3 years baru published. Okay. So, that's why for your strategy, nak Viva ni, the DPPS require you to publish satu kan. Satu lagi accept. Okay, so the strategy is like this. You want to have many papers, but not too many papers. Targetlah 3-4 papers. Okay, just for the requirement untuk you Viva, you need to publish 1 paper. And Alhamdulillah, the faculty allows candidate to publish in my site journal. Oh, my site. In the faculty, we have 3. We have Abridge, we have Jive, and we have JIR. Okay, as the journal that you can publish in. Okay, make sure you publish something that is not using your full framework. You reserve your best paper after you Viva. Faham tak? You reserve the best paper that you wanted to publish, preferably in good journals, macam Emerald ke kan? Why not? Because this is your hard work. Why not you publish in very good publishers? So you try to make some, you try to publish something that is only a portion of your model, ataupun you do some what I call as offshoot projects. Offshoot projects meaning that why not you interview some respondents that perhaps you can write something out of it. Okay, ataupun why not you create a mini project that is related to your study, but you are not talking about the exact framework you are doing, just for the sake of fulfilling the requirement of publication. Faham tak? Because your final framework in your thesis is valuable. Kan? It's valuable because you work hard for it. You work 3 to 4 years or even more to finish your PhD. So you wanted your paper to be published in good journals, kan? Macam in Emerald or Elsevier. Why not? So try to split, your framework or do some offshoot projects that just to fulfill the requirement. That's what I did lah. That's what I did, because all my publications come after my Viva. Previously, before my Viva, I did, previously you can produce conceptual paper and you publish in Scopus index journals, but that's no longer the case now, because most Scopus journals right now, they are not like the old days, where you can publish your SLR, your literature review, okay? Avoid that. Why? Because when you write, let's say you wanted to publish a concept paper, and you use your writing in your LR section into your paper. What happened is that when the paper gets published and you wanted to go for viva, your similarity will go high. You understand me? Or maybe you wanted to do a paper, a final paper, to I mean, like, to publish your greatest paper ever. But then, your writing is the same as what has been published before. So that is an issue that I would like to tell you. It's not like the old days. During my old days, like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, you can write the same LR in your thesis you put into conceptual paper, and the paper can be published. And then when you write another paper, you use the same writing for your LR, it can get published. It doesn't work nowadays. You have to remember, whatever that you wrote and you publish, you cannot use the same content whenever you wanted to publish another paper. Okay, the publisher will. The publisher now, they have a submission system and they automatically check your similarity, and they will reject your paper if the if the similarity is high. Okay, so I move on to next question. Okay, is there any way to get recording? I think Dr. Hafiz will share, yeah? Dr. Hafiz will share this later on. Okay, agreed if possible for us to get a copy of the slide. No worries. Okay, for RBV, if you do supply chain, that's possible. Okay, many articles that using RBV for supply chain, especially in green supply chain, they have this NRBV, maksudnya natural oriented resource based view. Okay, author dia PM Dr. siapa nama ni? Daripada Kedah. Okay, Prof. Madya Dr. Rizaini. Banyak paper dia publish in Journal of Cleaner Production, supply chain. Maybe you can refer, Rizaini Shaharuddin. Okay, he's an FDM lecturer from Kedah, associate professor. Banyak paper dia on supply chain dalam Journal of Cleaner Production. Alright, question I use so that I can get the correct respondents. Okay, so I use the filter by using filter question as such they can boost the shot or not. Okay, yes, you can ask that type of question. For example, have you taken your booster shot? If yes, proceed. If no, thank you very much for participating in this survey. Okay, meaning if that person is not qualified, then just stop over there. Meaning that, okay, thank you for participating. Kan? It means that that person is not qualified, right, to answer the next section. So you can just stop at that point. No problem. You don't have to reveal, all these sources of authors, everything. Yes, Noida, Dr. Rizaini, M-Y. Rizaini, R-I-Z-A-I-M-Y. Okay, R-I-Z-A-I-M-Y. So, in summary, students, okay, you need to set your mind. You need to set your mind when you wanted to complete this PhD. If you haven't go for the RP, set in your mind right now. When are you going for your defense research proposal? Actually, everything is depend on your writing. If you have so many things to say to your supervisor, I've done this, I've done that, I've read this, I've done that, your supervisor won't be convinced because you are not showing your writing. Okay. As for thesis, you are required to complete a 60,000 words thesis, 60,000 patah perkataan. So siapa yang belum DRP, anggaran dia, the estimation is around 20 to 25,000 words, or the best is 30,000 words for your research proposal. So how are you going to achieve that 30,000 words? A framework pun tak siap lagi, kan? So what you need to do is you need to arrange your own timetable, and you do yourself a favor by doing yourself a milestone. Put that milestone to apa? Any one of you yang memang kerja private, everyone has a milestone kan if you work in the office. So you try to segregate your milestone according to the number of words that you've written. You target yourself for 1 week, how many words that you can write. For 1 month, how many is it? And based on your piece of writing, when can you go for your research proposal? And then you should also not discount the factor that your supervisor maybe will say that, oh, this writing is wrong, this writing is not suitable. You have written 10,000 words, 2,000 words, your supervisor say, no, remove, for example. And you might not want to discount that kind of, that kind of situation. So you need to create posters, okay, not posters. Do you have a post-me notes? Go somewhere, cari post-me notes, you post it, you paste the post-me notes in the mirror in your bathroom. Oh, kalau bathroom basah kan, you put it in your cupboard kan, you put it in front of your laptop, you highlight there, how many words have you written and what is your target, and then only then you will see your progress, because your progress is not measured by how many papers have you written. No, your progress is measured by how many, not how many papers you have read, but how many words that you have written and your supervisor is comfortable with your work. Alright? Okay, I think susah nak cakap pages tu berapa. Okay. I don't want you to follow my thesis because my thesis tu 100,000 words. Sebab during my days, you all need to be grateful. Masa I belajar dulu, 80,000 80,000 words. And many of my seniors, 100K, 100,000 words. But for PhD at DPPS, I'm not sure about AAGBS. For PhD is 60,000 words. Bukan 60,000 PhD, 60,000 patah perkataan. Okay, so what I need you to do is, kebanyakan orang, dengar sini betul-betul. Dia tak boleh menulis kalau dia tak baca, faham tak? Sebabnya you keluar WhatsApp kan? You keluar WhatsApp, you tak tahu apa nak tulis kan? So why not you allocate? When is your most productive time? Katakan productive time ni waktu pagi. 8:30 katakan. Contoh hari Sabtu Ahad kan you have children, husband, tell them, you need support. Please, I need my time alone. I need to sit in my room, nobody disturb me. Okay, along angah kak dia, tolong jangan kacau mama, jangan kacau papa. I lock the room. I hope they can understand. Use that time to brainstorm and write everything in a piece of paper or in your Word file. Okay, jangan refer to any PDF. Okay, don't refer to anything. When you make statements, biarlah grammar tunggang telanggang. Doesn't matter if your English is incorrect, your grammar is in mumbo jumbo, okay? As long as you put your ideas into sentences. Once you put your ideas, okay, stop. Only then you spend like 2-3 hours when you create 2 or 3 paragraphs or 1 or 2 paragraphs, you stop, take a break. Only then you find references to support that statement. Faham tak? Most of you, many of us, even lecturers, they don't know what to write, they read. Bila they read, they complicated, tak faham, pening. And then you keep on reading, you keep on searching, reading. In the end, dah tengah hari, oh my, I need to cook at lunchtime. Ataupun, alah, I ada kelas. Siapa yang belajar lecturer kan, I ada kelas, I ada marking, I ada jobs to do. So in the end, you did not write. Okay, so listen to me carefully. Find your specific optimum time for you to write without any interference. And do not refer anything. Write, blah, 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 blah. Only then you take a rest, okay, take a break. Only then you plug in all the citation. And after that, only then you repair your language. Okay, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you write. You can't sure whether what you write has good grammar or not. Just write and you rectify it later on, so that your ideas are being put into the paper. Can you remember what I told you? Ideas, when you keep in your mind, you will forget it someday. When you write it, tak kisahlah kalau katakan there is a specific terminology that you can't really explicate using English. You write in Malay, tak apa, kan? write je in Malay. Later on, you work on it. You improvise your language, or perhaps in your own foreign language, in your own native language. Just write. Later on, you reconstruct, you re-edit, you re-beautify your sentences. Only then you will make progress. Sebab itulah you need to segregate your time. Waktu menulis, your writing schedule should be different. Your information searching schedule should be different. Your reading schedule should be different. You cannot combine all those three into a single session, or else you cannot write because you are tempted to search, kan? You ternampak TikTok, you ternampak Facebook, you go into Instagram, betul tak? Kan? If you read, you tak faham. You tak faham and you read, the more you read, the more you don't understand and you give up. Okay, so if you can't understand specific concept, go to a normal website like Wikipedia. I'm not asking you to cite Wikipedia. No, you are not citing Wikipedia. You are just learning the concept from Wikipedia. Faham? Getting the ideas from Wikipedia. Katakan you tak faham, apa tu use and gratification theory? Kan? Go to Wikipedia. You learn from Wikipedia. You know the sources. You know who are the guru in the Wikipedia just to get the idea. Okay, not for you to cite from, not for you to copy paste. No, it's just for you to understand the concept. Ataupun you browse any website that is related to that theory, just for your understanding. And by doing that, you allocate your time differently. What to write different, what to you mencari maklumat different. When you read the article, that can be different. So that you always make sure that you are writing. You are writing and you show progress. Because when there is no writing, your progress report will not be good because you have no evidence to show to the office that you have achieved a particular level of progress. Okay, so that is my motivation for you. Don't stop writing. Okay, and then don't compare yourself. Kan? Kawan you dah di artis yang dua, you dah sem empat. Okay, maybe your friend is single, kan? You ni dah lah ada anak ramai kan, you have many children, and then you are doing this part time, and your other friend ni full time kan, tak ada anak, kan? Bujang terang-tang, betul tak? So, the worst thing that we can do is we compare ourselves, kan? Memang kita nak motivation, but if you are comparing to our friends, sometimes it gives us negative motivation. So the best thing that you can do is just believe in yourself, and yep, for you to always, don't stop writing, because student tak ada progress but they don't write. Tu je yang nampak. They don't write because probably they don't understand, they are too much spend time on reading. Okay, so yeah, stay focused lah, stay focused. You have to remember, if you don't have any children now, maybe in the future you have children, and then your child will ask you, Papa, Mama, Papa dulu kan buat PhD. Tanya kan, what happened, right? So keep that as a motivator. So if you have a children, do you want your children to give up like you? Kan? Soalan sentap lah, sebab actually Prof. Norma told me yesterday, Prof. Norma told me yesterday, that is how she motivate her student, walaupun dengan cara yang sentap, tapi it works. I hope it also can work to all of you. Try to think, kan? Yeah, try to think positively. That, yeah, you have to remember, in order for you to reach a beautiful destination, memang haru biru orang kata, there are a lot of barriers. Even me myself, bila dah ada PhD, it's not like, okay, I submit paper and then reviewer tengok ataupun editor tengok, editor approve. No. My paper that you saw just now, I actually submit in 2019, kena reject. Not reject, something like reject and then major revision, 3 kali. 3 times major revision. My paper is in Emerald, 2-3 times. Nak reject, editor kesian, bagi chance and help to review 3 times, 2-3 times revision. Not to say that, okay, by the ada PhD nanti I am the most intelligent person in the world, all my research will be accepted. No, actually PhD is an apprenticeship. Macam houseman kan, dia nak jadi doktor, dia kena jadi HO kan. HO deal with a lot of issue, lot of challenges. Same also like you need to prove your worth. You need to, when you learn PhD, you learn what are the mistakes so that you won't repeat it again. And after you graduate your PhD, you will practice the same methodology. You will practice the same, you know, the same thing that you do during your PhD. Because writing a journal paper is similar. You need to have a proper framework, a proper theory. You need to adapt from the right sources. You are well trained to do your paper. And then you will train other people to become like you. You will, if you become a lecturer or even a professor, you wanted to train your student to become a successful PhD holder as well. So I hope that can motivate you to become a better person, yeah. Because all your problems that you endured in your PhD, I had that too. Macam-macam. Kadang-kadang dah buat ayat kena padam kan. Supervisor suruh tukar kan. You can't blame your supervisor. It is the right of your supervisor to ask you to amend. Right. Okay, I'm going to ask this question by Markland. Can you share your opinion if you have two underpinning theories, which to choose? You can use both, okay? Like me, myself, when I publish in World Electric Vehicle Journal, okay, you go to my research gate, there's an article which I adapt from two, not to say adapt, I utilize two theories, TPB and NUM, Theory of Planned Behavior and Norm Activation Model. Because when we talk about sustainability, green behavior, you cannot run away from theory that is related to sustainability. One of them is norm activation model. So I integrate that with TPB. And I cannot choose either one. I have to integrate both. All right. But let's say if you wanted to use only one, that one you really need to scrutinize whether does that theory really being used by other researchers when they wanted to study a model that is similar to yours. You need to do a lot of work if you wanted to select only one theory. But there is no problem if you integrate two theories. Okay, what is your opinion if I have four IVs? Is it too many? Okay, I think four IV is okay. I don't think it's many. There are a lot of many people that use 10 or 15 independent variables. I think four is okay. I think. What was the theory that you use in sustainability? Or you mean sustainability-based research? There are many types. You have norm activation model, okay? Norm activation plus TPB. Okay, for organization-based research, you use NRBV, natural resource-based view. Sorry, NRBV, natural-based resource-based view. So actually, there are a lot of theories. I am not a dictionary of theories as well. I'm also learning. Okay, you have to know one thing. When you do PhD, you are expert in your area, and there are many methodologies that you do not know. So, as a PhD holder, one day, if you are the gelaran doctor, please, uh, please, you will always want to keep yourself updated to the latest method. Okay, you need to always learn new things because even as a lecturer, even a professor also needs to learn because not all papers that is submitted by a professor is accepted by the editor. There are many cases where even professors submit papers they were not accepted. So it means that even with a PhD, the learning process too will never stop. Can will never stop. So by doing PhD is actually training you on how to learn, how to write good paper, how to practice good research methodology, kan? How to analyze data properly, how to write a good problem statement. Actually, if I wanted to explore on those things, it will take days. But my tips is remain the same. You yourself are the prime mover of this PhD. Kan? You yourself are the one who will decide whether you wanted to write or not. So don't read too much tanpa without writing. So get that writing, get that progress moving, writing. And janganlah write melalut-lalut. Do not write whatever thing that you think is right on your head. In PhD, you are not writing opinions. Kalau opinions, you are writing blogs. Faham tak? That is why you need to have a flair in writing, English academic writing. Okay, that's why you need to have a balanced time balance for your writing, time that is balanced for you to search the right information, and time for you to read and imitate. Tahu tak maksud imitate? It's not copy and paste, but you imitate how the author wrote their articles, for example. There may be certain terminologies, certain phrases. For example, in thesis, you cannot write in a nutshell. Kan? In a nutshell, for example, you might wanted to use the word uh, for in an example, there needs to be a proper academic language that you should use. I'm sure that in modern times you have Grammarly, kan? You have Grammarly, you have language correcting tools, you have Quillbot. You use that for your own benefit. Huh? I'm not talking about copy paste stuff. I'm talking about you wanted to improve your language by using Grammarly that you can, I think you can subscribe or purchase that can help you in terms of writing. Okay, the thing is that you need to write. Do not stop writing because your output will be in the form of a write-up thesis of at least 60,000 words. Okay, I think I have shared quite a lot. If you wanted to ask more, if there's anyone wanted to ask any more questions.
Hello.
Yes,
Okay, this is Macklin.
yes.
I'm doing something on big data adoption, and also
Uh-huh.
this ESG adoption to drive firm performance.
Uh-huh.
So that is where I was asking about you on the sustainability theory that should I
Yes,
be,
yes,
looking at?
yes.
Yeah.
So when you talk about your
So
firm
what is your
performance, yeah,
second?
your unit of
So
analysis of organization, right? Your unit of analysis.
my unit of analysis is the company.
Yes, organization
So
level.
I'll be getting feedback from the what do you call this, the CEO or of that level in the company. But
Okay.
my question is, let's say a company that I've chosen. So how many of them should be answering my questionnaire? Should I just give one questionnaire to one company, or should I give to numbers of them? For example, the management committees where they are from the finance, from the marketing, and also from the HR, and also from the strategies. So should I
Okay.
be giving only one questionnaire for them to answer, or should I give 4 questionnaires for each individuals of the company to answer the questionnaire? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if you are doing SMEs, for example, okay, usually if your unit of analysis is organization based, so it means that only one employee that should represent your company, the company. You understand me? For example, maybe the person who is responsible could be a manager because they may understand the situation of the company. Okay, it might be chief operating officer, for example, of a specific company. That could be the respondents for the company. So most researchers, when they study organization level type of research, okay, I talk about firm performance, ESG. Okay, each sample represent each company, and the company is usually represented by only one, by only one employee who will be suitable to answer the questions. Usually they are like managing directors, like senior manager, not the one who's doing HR or marketing or executive in the company. Yeah, they have to be a person who is appropriate in answering the question. Perhaps operation manager, because operation manager they know a lot about supply chain, right? Or perhaps what we call it, perhaps IT manager, because IT manager deals with big data, right? Big data. So those kind of people would represent the company, meaning that one company is represented by one person who should be eligible in answering the questions. So I hope my answer does fits into your question, yeah, Marlene?
Yes, doctor. The question is, for example, the big data is suitable for the IT manager or senior manager to answer the questionnaire. But at the
Yes,
same time, my query is the ESG, the IT manager is not really familiar with the discipline. So
I
that's the question that I'm raising to us for clarification.
okay, thank you. So if like there may be instances, there may be situation where the IT manager knows well about the ESG. If not, maybe the managing director, managing editor, CEO, or the senior management of the company who is familiar with both big data and ESG to answer the question. Okay, but I think IT manager should be okay because when a person is at the managerial stage, that person may involve in top level meeting, right, with the directors, with the CEOs. So probably the IT manager or the IT director can have some form of knowledge about the ESG, right? Environment, sustainability, governance of the company. So there's no problem actually, Madeleine, as long as the
All right, thanks.
respondents are involved in the day-to-day management of the company. Should be no problem.
All right, thanks, Doctor.
Most welcome. I think an RBV is suitable, but you may need to also look for other theories that are related to governance, because I don't think governance element is properly covered in an RBV. You need to look at theories that that is associated with governance. There are a lot of them. You just need to read and find the correct one. Okay, is there any more question? Or is there any questions that I have missed? Okay, it's already 1:30. It's already Zohor already. So Dr. Hafiz, are you there, Dr. Hafiz? I think I need to call him.
Yes, call me. Hello.
Dr. Hafiz, are you there? Because he's the one who's recording the session.
Okay. Hadi here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, it's already 1:30, Doctor. It's okay. So can we close?
Okay. All right.
Okay, Doctor. Can you share the email? So probably if participants interested to contact you later on.
Okay. I'm writing in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Can you
So
share the link later on? Yeah. Dr. Abdul,
pardon?
can you share the link later on? Yeah. To the participants. The record.
All right. So before we close, just to let you know that the notes, the notes and the recording will be shared by Dr. Hafiz later on, in the FBM WhatsApp group, FBM WhatsApp group. So all right. So once again, thank you so much to Dr. Iskandar, for fruitful sessions. I can see. I think today's quite a lot of participants. I mean, the highest participants compared to the others. But we hope that in the future workshop, we certainly hope that there will be more to come. All right. So thank you so much once again, Dr. Is, for sharing and a lot of information that participant can get. Yeah, any issues later on, you may contact Dr. Is. Yeah. All right. So
Okay, dah tadi tak nampak photoshoot ke? Macam everyone turn on webcam, take some
yes,
photo.
Aida. It's the same as with MSc ones. MSc and PhD is the same WhatsApp group. Okay.
Nah,
So
I mean,
yes,
we
Dr.
take,
Is,
we
anything?
take a screenshot together.
Screenshot together. Okay. I already take a screenshot before, but
Okay.
we can take it again. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. Okay. So we'll see you again in the next workshop. Okay, and have a nice day. Okay, take care of yourself and goodbye. See you later.
Okay, most welcome. Good luck, everyone. All the best to your PhD endeavors, MSc endeavors. Good luck.
Okay.